Okay, now we are going where you guys could hear us. Yeah, sorry we didn't have too much of a warning for everyone that we were going to be doing our show at this time. It's kind of a busy weekend for both of us again, and I think it was late last night that we even came up with that we were going to be doing it at this time. So
yeah, less than 12 hours ago.
yeah. So this one's just kind of out of nowhere, but it's all good. So let's go ahead and hit the intro and get started with the new roundtable.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are quartet, one from many. The palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's Magnum Opus, the Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we are here for roundtable number 45.
45.
Yeah, that's I don't know. We're getting up there in numbers. I think we're over 60 for overall podcast, and But yeah, it's crazy to think about. But yeah, we're past the movie now. We're gonna have some cleanup in like our mailbag that are still gonna be talking about the movie, and we still have some stuff to discuss about it for sure. But overall, I think that in a large way, we've turned a corner now to the future and to, I don't know, a little bit more book centric and stuff. Just because now the craze of the movie is over.
Yeah,
and we're now as of right now, when we're recording this live, if you're listening to it in the podcast, just to give you a reference, today is the day that basically the movie for It opened up. So September, late or early September. So we got It is out now. So it just feels like now you've turned the page, and now we're over to It territory. So yeah, it feels like overall the mass craze of the movie is over, and now we got to look forward to what's coming next. And that's kind of what we'll have in this episode, is looking at that kind of stuff and having some discussions about that, and also just book stuff. And also, I think we've alluded to it already, that next time will be a book club.
Yes.
And getting back to your boy Eddie Dean.
Not that I didn't mind. I mean, I got a movie out of the interruption, but
yeah, indeed. So let's go ahead and get into the intros real quick, just for anyone that's newer. First of all, I want to warn you guys about spoilers. We will potentially spoil anything from the 7 primary books of the Dark Tower series, also the movie. So if you haven't watched or read all of the Dark Tower and do not want to be spoiled, this may not be the podcast for you. Maybe stick with our book club episodes for now. Also, you can find us on iTunes. You can stream us on Stitcher. You can find us on any podcast service that's out there. You can also subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes. Also, you can find the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com. We have a few visuals I'm going to be showing Peter, plus a few articles we're going to look at. If you guys want to read those articles in their entirety, because I just take away snippets, sometimes a lot of snippets, but I will chop out stuff that I don't find as interesting. If you want to read the whole articles or see what I'm showing Peter, and you're not watching the YouTube thing, then you can go to darktowerpalaver.com and see what we're looking at. Also, if you want to join the Palaver, as you are part of our extended quartet, whether you know it or not, if you've been here a long time, you know that. But if you're newer, you may not know that yet, but we have an extended quartet, which is all of you guys, and we want you part of it all. So, Peter, how do they do that?
Best way to reach us is through email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And give us a follow on the Twitter. It's @DarkTowerPod. That's @DarkTowerPod. And then, like Tad said, we stream our shows live on YouTube. It's youtube.com/DarkTowerPalaver. If you usually pay attention to our Facebook and Twitter, we usually give you a little bit more heads up than we did this time for when we're going live. So you can tune in and watch us live. Also, you can stream the YouTube one and see what visuals Tad's showing me as you listen to it.
Yes, indeedy. Yeah, it's normally we give you a little more of a heads up. Also, for the YouTube stuff, if you can't join us live, you also can go to our YouTube channel and watch shows, previous shows, just like as a normal YouTube video, as you would with a normal YouTube video. So if you can't join us live, you can still go there and watch. If you wanted to have the visuals in front of you, you can do that. That is another option for, I guess, enjoying the show. So
Yeah.
you have that option as well. So yeah, that's what we have for intros. And if you guys are new, we welcome you to the other side of the movie craze. I know a lot of people, newer people, have found us as time has gone by, and the movie helped a lot. And I think that just in general, like with the craze of Dark Tower, I think there's just been a lot of people that read books to lead into the movie and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a good time to be a Dark Tower fan for sure. I think that whether you like the movie or not, I think that there is no doubt that the
group who are interested in the Dark Tower has grown.
yeah, for sure.
I know that that's a big thing for a lot of our listeners, because we've talked to several that have had instances where they tell us that, well, I have no one else but you guys to talk to. So hopefully we're getting some new fans that can ease that pain.
Yeah, no doubt. So yeah, the one thing that I wanted to even just start off with, even before we got into any articles and stuff, is like the a thought I've had in my head for the last couple of weeks now, and it's a question I wanted to throw out there for everyone. You guys can email us, you guys can interact with us on social media to answer this.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is more. I don't know. I guess it could go for people that liked the film as well, or but primarily, I think the people that didn't enjoy the film. What I would ask is, would you prefer no film? And that's not like to be like snotty and be like, oh, if you don't like it, would you rather, whatever. But no, it's just an honest question. Like, and like I said, even if you liked the movie, where we're at standing right now, do you think the movie was the right move? Is it something that, like, say, knowing what you know now, you went back 3 years ago and they asked your opinion? Would you rather them do that, or would you rather them transition over to getting a TV series perhaps instead of a movie? Like, because I was reading up on some stuff on like Game of Thrones, for instance. I'm a fan of the show. Not read the books because just the way I do things nowadays, I usually save books for after I watch them. And I was reading some stuff on George R.R. Martin, how he was actually pitched movies for Game of Thrones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, about the time that the show was in development, and like basically it was a hot property. People knew the books were like they knew the books were popular. They knew they had potential, but the studio started pitching him on movie franchises. I mean, you're talking right in the shadow of Lord of the Rings, which is a huge hit. So
Harry Potter was right in full swing,
but
right
I mean,
there.
Lord of the Rings, that's like almost the same genre in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah,
like with the fantasy, the sword.
Oh, I
like,
see what you're going at.
Like,
yeah,
like the swords type fantasy, magic, all that kind of stuff. So I think that like everyone was approaching him and stuff, and he ultimately came to the point where he's like, there's no possible way that you could do justice to the series with any number of movies.
Yeah.
So no. And then eventually, obviously, he went with HBO, and he has the show made, which is going now. And it made me consider, that's kind of where the genesis of this came, is now, even I know a lot of us wanted to see something on the big screen, but what it comes down to is, would you want the movie, or would you rather have it as like a TV series? And I know a lot of people have already been saying for the longest time they'd rather have a TV series, but now that we have it, would you trade it for like a TV series, for instance?
Well, the first thing I want to say is that one of the big things is that we can stipulate all we want, but I honestly believe Tad didn't ask me this question beforehand, so I have no prep time for this. My first thought, if we went TV show, we'd lose Matthew and Idris.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I'm pretty sure
Matthew for sure. Idris, I mean, he has some of his biggest successes have been on television.
And I mean, Matthew's done television show. I mean, he did the first season of True Detective and everything like that,
which is a very limited.
Which was limited, yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm saying that. Man, I don't know if we would keep both of them.
No, it's absolutely true,
Yeah.
and I totally agree. It would be a caveat to this question. But I just thought it'd be a really good discussion question to throw out to everyone, and just ask, like with where we're at now. Again, you might even have liked the movie or loved the movie or enjoyed the movie, you enjoyed the hell out of it, but you still might answer you may prefer to have, because also that's the other thing that the other point that we're at too is that where we're at now. Like, I loved the movie, but there's part of me that wonders, would it have just been better as a TV series? Because now we're in a position where potentially even TV people might look at the Dark Tower series as a non-starter, because the success or lack thereof of the box office for the Dark Tower.
Right.
It might be a thing where Netflix or someone might be like, no, we don't want to do a Dark Tower show because you guys didn't do all that well in the box office, and I don't know if fans are going to follow along with it. So it'd just be interesting to see, like, I don't know, like what the thoughts are, because overall, I've said since almost the beginning of the show that, like, yes, a TV series would always be better, of course, because I think Game of Thrones has been going the whole time we've been going, and I was like, that's a really good example of probably what it would look like. But at the same time, there's that jealous part of me, especially, that's just like, I just want to see it on the big screen, because I'm a movie hound, I'm a theater junkie. Like, like over the last week or so, the big news story has been just like how Hollywood's had the worst decade in a lifetime, and the last even 20 years has been really down for box office successes overall. And so it's just been like one of these things where it's like, maybe movies are going the way of music, and it's gonna have to evolve or die type thing. And
we talked about this a couple of shows ago, where we talked about how much success we're having with TV shows recently. Like if we want to look at like the premier content that's out there right now, you list the top 25 things that have come out. In the past 5 years, let's say 5 years. Whether it's TV or movie, majority of them are going to be TV.
We're in the golden age of television. And it makes me wonder, like, is the golden age of television also because of the weakness of Hollywood? And you could say for whatever reason why Hollywood is the way it is. But like, I'm always a junkie of movies, and I'll always be one that wants to see something in theaters. I think that's like being in a movie theater is a hallowed experience, and it's just something special and something I'll always cling on to as long as I can. So I did say that, but ultimately it may because, like, I don't know. There's.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that it's almost a double-edged sword, because for all we know, okay, well, we get a 1-season run TV show that leaves on a cliffhanger, Walking Dead-esque or Game of Thrones-esque style, wanting more, but then we get Firefly, and just canceled after one season.
Or like Terminator,
Sarah Connor Chronicles or something like that.
That one ended right when it was starting to get good. Well, don't sign it with Fox and you'll be okay.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. It just like, it just seems like it's a double-edged sword either way we go. I believe the biggest problem we had with the movie is the developmental hell cost it. We talked about this when we talked about critics last week, a couple weeks ago, and the shows previous since the movie came out. It just seems like a lot of people have negative opinions about movies that get delayed for 10 years. So, I mean, if you give me that question, I would say TV show. The grass is greener on the other side, I guess, Plus, knowing where TV goes.
What TV is right now. Like, even if you lost Idris and Matthew McConaughey, like, I still wonder, like, what could we have with a TV series? And I'm not saying could have had, because I still think that path is open, and I still even wonder if this whole Wizard and Glass TV series that's in development now is going to eventually evolve into the rest of the series playing out on television. And it's kind of funny because I had this question and I almost brought it up last week, but we were late in the show, and I was just like, by the time I remembered it, because I didn't take notes of it or whatever, and like it was like late in the show, I'm like, oh fuck, that question I want to answer, I want to ask. So I've had this for a while, but it's funny because some of the articles I have to cover today actually kind of allude into this same realm. But it is a question I wanted to throw out there, and over the next like few weeks, I mean, or the next episodes, we're gonna have a book club, but after that, when we get back to roundtables, I'd love to hear from you guys, the extended quartet. Just email us, and specifically email if you want to be part of the conversation on the show. I would love to interact with you guys on social media as well. But I have a lot, like, it's a little bit more difficult to like save tweets and stuff like that to bring back on a podcast and be like, oh yeah, a tweet from a week and a half ago said this. Like, our Twitter feed is pretty chocked full of stuff to where it's kind of hard to go back and find that stuff. So if you want to be a part of the show, do it through email, but just let us know what you guys think. And I don't know, just, I guess, let's palaver on this discussion. Would you rather have a TV series, whether or not you liked the movie? And if you could do it, if we could have a do-over, like if you had a time machine, you went back 3 years, you're right in the middle of developmental hell, and it's right at that point where we didn't get the forward motion with MRC, and they were to ask you, and then what you know now, and they ask you, should we just do this, or should we start going down the route of television? And what would you say? That'd be an interesting thing. Looks like Lou's in the chat. And actually, Lou, yeah, we're actually very similar. I think our showtime for it is in about 4 hours, about there.
5.
About 5 hours. Yeah, we're about 5 hours away from our It showing as well. So
Yeah.
super excited for that. I was actually at work last night and a friend texted me. I'm like, oh man, my wife can't make it to It tonight. Like, you free to go see it tonight? And I'm just like, oh, I'm at work. But yeah, no, I am super excited to see It, and we're just a little ways from that. So, but yeah, for that topic, guys, we'll throw that out to you guys, and hopefully hear some responses over the next little while. There isn't a ton of news going on right now, so we're gonna get into some emails a little bit later, and we'll probably be able to mostly empty the mailbag.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to engage in that conversation, and if you have different takes on it, or even just different nuances and different things to ask about that, if this spawns into a whole web of questions, like, so be it. But send those emails. We'd love to have that conversation. I just think it'd be interesting. So you'd say TV series then?
Yeah, I think that don't get me wrong, I love the movie, I really did.
Yeah.
But I think that if we go back 3 years, the big thing is that we avoid a little bit of a what is it, negativity time is what I would want to classify it as. And so it's like, right, because about 3 years ago, that's about the time we were starting to talk about a podcast about Dark Tower, isn't it? A little bit around there.
What's that?
3 years ago, started talking about maybe doing a podcast.
Yeah, that's probably when it was in the earliest stages of
like
hey,
the first time you ever came to me when we went to lunch that one day. You're like, hey man, you ever thought about doing a podcast?
Yeah, it took us a little bit of time to get the podcast off the ground for sure. But yeah, it's
also getting the software to do a podcast and where we're going to post it, the microphones and how are we going to record, where we're going to record, and everything like that. Yeah, it took a little bit of time to get it put together. I think that it would have been. I don't know how our show would be doing compared to that. And if I got to put Dark Tower Palaver on the line, I'm going to say no.
Well, I mean, I don't think that necessarily the movie going forward was something that was the genesis of our show, though. I think that we were going to do the show.
No. But what I'm saying is that if 3 years ago, right around the time that we're thinking about starting up a podcast, they switch over to a TV show, man, and they make a TV show before we start. I don't know if I would want to do a podcast where I'm worried that the TV show would have been lackluster developed. But if we go full bore on the TV show, yeah, I'd take a TV show.
Yeah, I think that, and then also I don't know, that'd be a whole. We would definitely look differently as a show, with a TV show, or as our show would look different overall, because we'd be talking about an episode every week or whatever it might be. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if it's a Netflix, it would drop all at once, and we'd have to slowly parse it out.
Season show,
or if it's just one of those things where you are getting an episode every week or whatever, it'd be a whole different thing for sure. But
it would definitely be a different animal for us for the Palaver.
Yeah,
it's interesting to think about.
But for me, my answer would probably be yeah. Like I said, I think overall it was one of those things I was just I did want to see something on the big screen, and I'm super happy with the cast we got and stuff. But overall, I think that a TV series, just because we are in the golden age of television and stuff, I don't know, I could definitely see where it's it might be.
Okay, I'm going to make one stipulation though. If I say TV, it's gotta be at least on cable.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I don't even consider network.
That.
Although Hannibal was on NBC, and that one actually got away with quite a bit. Actually,
I know, but
I'm still shocked by. I watch that at times. I'm like, how the hell was this on network television, dude? That's some of the goriest shit I've still ever seen in my life. And I'm a kid that's grown up on horror movies since age 5.
Yeah.
There's some stuff in that still make me think that's some of the worst shit I've ever seen.
Good Lord.
That was on network television, man.
I still need to watch that, don't I?
Yeah,
you gave me a copy of those.
And apparently it's potentially now the contracts have expired, so NBC no longer holds any rights over it.
Uh-huh.
And apparently Brian Fuller is shopping it with Netflix and Amazon and stuff to potentially revitalize the show.
Keep it going
and bring it on, because season 4 I think where would be the next season, and I think that's damn near getting into where Silence of the Lambs would be happening. So
Cody's seen Mr. Mercedes.
Oh yeah, dude, I want to see it so bad, man, but I have no access to it.
Me neither.
The only way I'd have access to it is to pirate it, and I'm not into that kind of thing. They don't have it on Amazon or Apple or those places where you could buy season passes. They don't have it
or
that,
Vudu,
so.
yeah.
So they don't have it, so I have no access to it. And I really it bums me out. It really does. And every so often, there'll be tweets and stuff that'll mention it or talk about it and stuff, and I'm just oh man, it just hurts me that I can't watch it. But
I wonder if they are going to release it on DVD and stuff.
I would hope so. I would think so, because they are still kind of. I mean, even Netflix, which is the biggest anti old school style stuff. Like they're even putting DVDs out of their stuff. I mean, Daredevil and all that kind of stuff is coming out on DVD. So I would say that I'd say Mr. Mercedes would probably be on some sort of physical media here, hopefully by Christmas.
Hopefully,
but we'll see. But yeah, I really want to see it for sure. But
can't we do a Twitter poll for this?
What?
For would you rather go back 3 years? Would you rather have a TV show or this movie?
Well, I think it'd be kind of cool just to hear some emails from people.
Oh, okay.
Just because, like, to hear people's rationale and just to hear like that kind of stuff. And I don't know. I mean, we could do just a poll, but I'd like to.
Well, we could do both.
I'd like to.
Why not both?
I'd like to dig in a little bit more and
I mean, people
what,
could still email in if they have a hot take they want to give to us.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. So yeah, hit us up. Let us know. Be like, just have that as a question out there to be answered for sure. And
Chris makes a very good point about us having to wait for Mr. Mercedes. This is what he goes through every time.
yeah, indeed. And then like I also know they put the first couple episodes like on their website or something like that. I'm like, I'm not going to go on there and watch that because
that would just be torture.
Because then I can't watch the rest of it.
Yeah,
like screw that.
What Chris said is that Tad, imagine living outside the U.S. I have to wait until is available in DVD or Blu-ray. So he can't even watch U.S. television overseas, so it's just like, oh.
Well, it's true, but I mean, I can't either technically because that's on. I mean, I could if I wanted to sign up a contract with whatever, but I'm a cord cutter, so I don't have cable or satellite of any kind, and this is specifically on one that's only on DirecTV. I think
it's AT&T exclusive. Someone said that in the chat. It's AT&T and DirecTV are the same company now.
Yeah, so it's exclusive through them. So like, even if you had Comcast and you were paying them, you wouldn't have that channel.
Yeah, you still need SOL.
So like for me, I literally have no way to watch it other than, of course, like I said, piracy, and I'm just not into that kind of thing. So hopefully a DVD will be out at some point. But yeah, I could, Chris, I could feel you because that's pretty much what I'm going through with Mr. Mercedes. Yeah. Indeed. So now, next up is, of course, what we've been going through the last few episodes, and that is sequel watch for the movie. And this is, I guess, what we just entitled our portion of the program, where we're going to look at how the movie is doing, box office wise, and look at the numbers. So we've taken the numbers from Box Office Mojo. And first of all, domestically, we're up to 48 million, pretty much. I mean, it's not even, but it's 48.0 because like the other numbers are further down the line there. So $48 million domestically. Foreign is at 53.4 million, and sorry, I had an extra number left in there. I said 53.4.3. I'm like, that doesn't work.
Wait a minute, 2 points?
Yeah, so $53.4 million. So that puts us at a grand total of $101.5 million with the overall worldwide box office of the Dark Tower movie as of a couple days ago.
Good.
When Box Office Mojo is caught up. So that's pretty cool. I mean, with theaters taking their cut and stuff, I don't know what that means. I don't know at what point Sony's made a profit necessarily, or MRC, but as of right now, they've definitely, if you looked at the straight budget to what it's made, it's got what 100 million or 101 million out of 65 million.
66. Yeah.
66 million. So not too bad. So now where does it rank for all-time Stephen King films? That's another question we've been asking and tracking, and it just kind of interesting to watch, like, where does it rank? Because overall we discovered when Dark Tower came out that Stephen King's movies are overall not that successful. I mean, for massive box office. Like you see some of these movies like Shining or Shawshank, and you're just like, oh, those are huge hits. Like, and in a lot of cases, no, they weren't.
Yeah.
They weren't huge hits. I think Green Mile is number 1 and 1408 is number 2. So overall, so and then so here's where we look at this. First of all, for domestic, and like I said, it's at 48 million. Dark Tower ranks 6th all time for Stephen King, and I think that's up from 8th last time. And for worldwide, at 101.5 million, Dark Tower is currently ranked 3rd of all time.
All right.
So ranked right below Green Mile and 1408. And 1408 is in striking distance, potentially, depending on how much longer it runs in theaters for Dark Tower. But of course, Green Mile with like 200.5 million or something like that. Like there's no chance of that for us, for Dark Tower. But now the one thing here is some articles, because like I said, it today.
Yeah. And
of course there's okay, I think we're back now. Of course, having our normal stupid YouTube issues here. Yeah, there is. It's nice to have the YouTube videos, but this going down once per episode thing is kind of annoying. But and there's like nothing on our end because we've done it at different times of the day and stuff. Like there's like yeah, I don't know. It couldn't be.
We've done it on different days too. And
different days, like yeah. So I don't think it's a bandwidth issue on my end. I think it's more of like a YouTube thing, or maybe it's the software I'm using. Still having issues here. Okay, let's see. Or no, it looks like we're still live. It's just showing stream health is poor for some reason. So at least on the YouTube side, on my software side, it's showing okay. So, I don't know. Let's see. Can you guys, everyone's still here? I know you guys are on a little bit of a delay. So.
Yeah, someone give us a thumbs up.
Okay, yeah. And yeah, North Central Positronics, that's who I blame for all this this nonsense here.
Wait, you're actually blaming a bad guy?
Well, I don't know about bad guys. But, you know, technology, if it's going to be technology, it's going to lay to them, you know.
Wow.
I mean, I could blame Skynet too, but, you know, something technological is definitely, you know, at fault here. Okay, so as we were saying about the overnight box office for it, because it's basically screened for 1 or 2 show times per theater
on Thursday nights,
most
right?
likely Thursday nights. Yeah. So right now, the articles came out saying that it made $13.5 million last night.
Wow.
So it's only $6 million short of surpassing what Dark Tower did in the first weekend in a single night.
Jeez.
So, and
you called it.
Yeah, I knew this was going to be a big one, man. And so this is on par, similar one night showings for the opening night with the Hobbit movie, the first Hobbit movie, which ended up going on to make $84.6 million in the first weekend.
Good Lord.
Also, the other one that had about as much on the opening night was Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, which ended up making $114.7 million the first weekend. So that's, and the people that apparently know what they're talking about and do all the science behind this, the predictions they're saying are basically saying, based on what it did last night, it is most likely going to be somewhere between $90 million and $100 million for this weekend.
Good Lord.
So it's going to be a huge movie. So right away, like on the worldwide box office, I mean, just in the domestic weekend, it's going to go up to the third or second ranked king all time worldwide. So this one's going to go gangbusters for sure. So
yeah,
I know that's a little bit of a side tangent, but of course with Dandelo being such a close relative of Pennywise, it's worth talking about. But yeah, it's going to be a big release. So yeah, if you guys haven't had a chance to go see that, of course you definitely should go see it. I say support anything that Uncle Stevie does, because
that just means we get more.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm hoping Mr. Mercedes does well, so we can go on and do more seasons and cover the other books and stuff too. So
that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay, so now next up we have a few different articles here to go over. The first one is titled "TV offers a second chance for failed movie franchises like The Dark Tower, Dread, or Divergent." And this is actually from Scott Mendelson from Forbes, and we've actually read from him a few times before.
Oh, yeah.
And this was actually on August 9th, 2017, so it was opening weekend of the Dark Tower movie, if I recall correctly, wasn't it?
No, August 9th is the week after.
Oh, a week later.
The 4th is the week opening day.
Oh, I don't know why I was thinking. Oh, it's probably because that being the 8th. It's
the 8th is opening day for
crossing my mind up here a little bit. But yeah, so Scott Mendelson wrote this article, and I thought it was kind of interesting here. And he starts off. Well, the first note I have from his says Sony and MRC are absolutely planning to go forward with their plans for an episodic television show based on the Dark Tower, even considering the film's relative box office and critical failure. And that's obviously something that we know. I mean, we haven't heard a whole lot yet since opening weekend when they announced they got the showrunner, but we do know that they did get the showrunner, and hopefully they're going forward with it. And he goes on and says, episodic television is becoming something of a home for failed fantasy franchises. The idea of turning a hit movie into a television show isn't remotely new, as you probably heard of MASH or Stargate. And the idea of turning a theatrical bomb into a TV show isn't revolutionary either, as you probably watched a few episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in your day, and may even be aware of the 6-season-long Highlander show back in the mid-90s. So it definitely is something that has its place in history to say that like movies can transfer to television, obviously, and it looks like what he's contending is that ones that fail in the movies.
That actually makes me feel really, really kind of hopeful for this TV show now, because me and you have both talked about it. I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I got into it a few years, 10 years ago or so, after the show had finished, so I just watched all 7 seasons. But I found out some stuff afterwards that Joss Whedon wanted to do it, the TV show kind of thing, in the movie, and the studio interfered a lot and made it more their movie, which we've heard rumors about Dark Tower kind of thing too.
Yeah.
And then Joss went on to make Buffy the TV show, which became like a fan favorite and really popular. And I remember people like having watch parties for the series finale in high school when it finished and everything. So maybe that'll happen with Dark Tower, where it'll be more to, a maybe not, Nikolai, because he's we've heard,
he's done.
Yeah, we've heard things that he's not going to, but maybe less.
Well, he stated that, I think we covered that last week, that he stated that he's done with the Dark Tower series. So, and actually, one of these, I can't think it might be.
Well, didn't he say he's done with Dark Tower movies? So that's what I'm saying, is if it does switch over entirely to TV show, we may actually see, like a Nikolai, because that's what you were pondering is, what was Nikolai's vision that possibly could have been changed.
I don't think that he's going to be around anymore, even for any bit of the TV stuff. It feels to me like he broke with it, and it kind of lends some credence to some of those rumors that there was some strife backstage with some of it. So
that you're just hearing it, putting in the same vein as like a box office flop like Buffy, and knowing that the series did really well, and Joss was only involved for a couple seasons and then turned the reins over to someone else to run the show while he went and did other projects. And it makes me hopeful that, Wizard, I'm going to call it Wizard and Glass, because that's basically what they've said the TV show is going to be largely based upon. I'm really hopeful for Wizard and Glass now.
Absolutely. Then Scott Mendelson goes on here and says, but this mini trend is interesting. What we're seeing is a series of planned cinematic franchises that flamed out after the first poorly performing installment, going on to find a second life in cable or streaming TV. In an era when so many movies arrive straight out of the gate with hopes of long-form and sequel-rich franchises, those that stumble, especially those in the fantasy/horror subgenre, are attempting to discover if long-form television may be a better fit for said adaptations. And then he says, here's the rub. If Judge Dredd, Mega City, or The Dark Tower, or Divergent TV shows, or whatever it's called, find similar success to, for example, Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, we may see these fantasy properties foregoing the big screen altogether in the future.
That's a very good point. I was going to actually bring that up. I was thinking about that as if they're only having success on TV, wouldn't studios be like, well, you know what? It's kind of like what you said about Westerns about a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
Westerns are dead.
Yeah.
Like, people just don't make Westerns anymore.
Yeah, it's pretty rare to see Westerns made anymore. But yeah, that would be interesting to see if they were to go start going straight to these TV things for fantasy.
Honestly, it me if we did go that route. It really wouldn't.
Yeah, it's true, and it makes me wonder. Like, there is some stuff obviously that that's out there content wise, and it'd be interesting to see what happens in the next couple years with them. If development starts on projects, like, do they go straight to television then and just get out of the whole movie business when it comes to this?
Well, I think the big thing with fantasy, especially, and I maybe horror is a little bit not. Yeah, horror's not what I'm referencing here. Is that fantasy is going to be able to world build a lot better when it comes to TV shows. It's like we were talking a little bit earlier about Game of Thrones. That I can't imagine a Game of Thrones series of like 3 or 4 movies. That just would not fit what we've covered at all.
Yeah.
And that's where I just think that maybe that's what fantasy is since it's so in depth that you can't do a franchise that doesn't already have an established base.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think that I think that with that kind of stuff, like, and you're just playing a different game in general, especially with streaming. I mean, because now even with streaming, you're getting to the point where, you do have to have some success, obviously, but it isn't even as much where it's like you have to like make advertisers happy because they're gonna if they bitch, they have to they're gonna change your content because advertisers will bitch or like whatever, and you're at the kind of like the mercy of those people. Like now with streaming and stuff, like obviously Netflix has chopped some of their original things and got rid of them because they don't perform very well. But overall, like it feels like it's a lot more open to like letting people play and letting things grow organically.
Well, let's look at the one of the biggest success that Netflix has had in their original content. Daredevil was going nowhere. The movie with Ben Affleck flopped horribly. People consider it one of the worst comic book movies of all time.
Oh, Catwoman.
I said one of. I said one of, not the worst. I acknowledge Catwoman, all right? But I mean, like, it was dead to right. I mean, like, there was was no story there left to tell.
Fox didn't even try to, like, because, like, the whole idea is that with Marvel is they've kept, they have a thing on all their contracts that if a movie isn't made after a certain period of time, it reverts back to them. And I don't even think Fox even tried to get something off the ground.
Well, it's like so that's what they're doing right now with Fantastic Four. Fox has Fantastic Four, right?
Yeah,
and they've done 3 movies. None of them have succeeded,
and they got another one in the works.
And now they have another one in the works because they want to keep the intellectual property.
Yeah,
the rights to it. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Unfortunate,
but Daredevil is just my beacon of hope there with like Netflix and stuff like that. Is where. This had no business being turned into a series, and I remember the social media backlash that Netflix got. You're making a show about that stupid superhero that Ben Affleck played. Do you remember that?
And then now Ben Affleck is also another superhero.
Yeah, now he's Batfleck.
He's redeemed himself away from that cursed thing as well.
It's true. Both of them have pointy ears on top of the costume. I just noticed. I think Ben Affleck just has a thing with the pointy ears thing.
Yeah, well, he's done a lot better job as Batman than he did as Daredevil. That's for sure.
Yeah,
but
I just think that if Daredevil can do it, Dark Tower can do it.
Yeah, and I think that we have a lot to go off of for sure when it comes to the content that we have. But a lot of it might be a little bit more adaptable on TV or streaming type service rather than a movie anyway. Because I even wonder about some of the data stuff. Like, is some of the data stuff going to be easier to do in a streaming way rather than theaters? And it makes me wonder. So, can you do some of the Can you do Drawing the Three more true to life? You know, even the Naked Gun battle. Like, is that more doable on streaming on Netflix or Amazon or Hulu rather than in a movie? Obviously.
Oh well, you could do a Naked Gun fight, no problem. You just don't show Wang.
Yeah, but
I mean. There's been plenty of naked men in PG-13 movies that they just don't show it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like it calls specifically for Eddie to go full frontal. I mean, I don't know if you just have like a crush on Aaron Paul or something here.
Well, no, I'm just saying that like I think that scene would have changed if it was a movie.
Honestly, what it would have been, I could see
it would have been the Bryan Cranston whitey tighties.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. Dude, that would also be a great little Easter egg is if they make it the same freaking whitey tighties and you put him like, they're like, search him, and they like rip open his green button-up shirt. He doesn't have an undershirt, or he has a white beater on underneath, right? Cranston does.
I don't remember. He has multiple costumes, so
in that first scene. But then it's like the white tie, he's in his boots and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, he doesn't have it on him, boss, and just leave him like that. Make Aaron Paul, because Aaron Paul is Eddie D. There's no question about this. All right, that's still who I picture.
Yeah, and he has a lot of television success.
Yes, he does.
So, indeed. Yeah, for sure. And then let's see, Scott goes on here and says, after all, as I've discussed here and there, production values for cable and streaming televisions have advanced to the point where there isn't a ton of difference between mid-budget fantasy adventure movies and big-budget television shows. By virtue of their smaller ambitions in terms of niche appeal, the show can be overtly sexual. And I think with this, he's actually referring to one of the properties he was talking about in the portion that I cut out, because I think he's actually referring to something explicit here or something specific to one of the things he mentioned, but I chopped it out. I just realized this doesn't make a lot of sense without it. But he says overtly sexual and explicitly gay in a way that PG-13 movies cannot do. So I think he's actually referring to one of the other projects, because like he's talking about a handful of projects that have moved from movies to television. I think he was talking about one specific there. And then he says, and it goes without say that the TV show can spend much more time expanding on character arcs and filling in story details and mythology over 13 episodes than to a 90 to 150 minute feature film could possibly do. And I think that's totally true.
Yeah.
With that, like, I mean, how much more could they have gotten into with a first season 1 television show to introduce all this versus a movie?
Yep.
You know, and it makes me wonder, how would you structure that for a series? Like, would you try to go book 1 direct And if you, even with that, would you? I don't know. That'd be interesting. How, because I think book one's the hardest one when it comes to like would you do that in a TV series? Unless you just combined it with book two.
Honestly, I could see it being like the story isn't told to Brown. The story's told to Jake.
Yeah, could be.
I honestly believe that's the biggest change to one that would make it plausible. Is the very beginning is Roland stumbling up to the way station. Jake taking care of him. They go a little ways into the mountains, and Roland tells him the story of Toll and some other stuff.
Yeah, it could be. But yeah, for a 13 episode thing, it could. But also the other.
No, I mean, starting like that's
well.
couple episodes,
no, I'm just saying that like.
I'm not saying that's the season one.
No, I'm just saying the book one. I don't think could even stretch into a whole season.
No, yeah, I'm agreeing with you on that. No, I'm saying a couple episodes for season
the
one.
other thing with streaming though is you could even do a shorter season.
6 episodes.
Yeah, do 6-8 episodes. Like Stranger Things is only 8 episodes long.
Yeah.
You know, like go. You know, if you're doing streaming, I love streaming. I think streaming is the future of everything in a lot of ways, and I think that with that, it offers you a freedom that you don't have with television. Like with television, you get filler episodes because guess what? If you signed a contract to make 20 episodes in a season, then you have to make 20 episodes. If your story arc only covers 13, then the rest of those are, you know, filler. You're going to have 7 filler episodes.
Yeah.
You know, or if you have a 13 episode season, but you only really have story for 8 or 9, then guess what?
You got to stretch those.
You got to stretch it out. Yeah, exactly. Fake stuff out. So that's definitely something that there's a freedom there when it comes to streaming that it would be interesting to see, like maybe a 6 to 8 episode for book one, and then get into book two. It could be a whole 13 episode thing, especially because you could even expand out a little bit more with Eddie and even Susanna, Detta, whatever you want to call her.
Yeah.
Like show some of them in their real life before Roland enters.
Kind of what I was saying. One of my few gripes with the movie is that I wanted more of Jake in New York. I wanted to see what his problems were, more interactions with the kids, the teachers, and everything like that.
Yeah,
that's what we would have got if we had a season one instead of a Dark Tower movie.
Yeah, for sure. To where you're maybe 2 or 3, 4 episodes in before Jake even comes close to being drawn. However, that goes.
Yeah, but at the same time, maybe I'm seeing Eddie and Susanna at the same time, and Jake's drawn first, but we're still seeing Eddie and Susanna, and it's building up. Like, what do these two have to deal with?
Yeah,
this, you know, like Eddie's obviously in New York, but also one of the fun things I think that if you're a showrunner for that season one is you make it so that Eddie and Jake almost seem like they're from, and Susanna make it seem like they're almost from around the same time, but you have to be paying close attention to notice like. Wait,
Susanna would be the biggest giveaway though, because
I don't know
because Eddie and Jake are closer, and like the time periods that they're in, if you went book wise straight up, like cars and stuff aren't that different, but like when you get to her where she's in like the 60s, like cars suddenly look a lot different.
But she's also not in New York.
Society's a lot different.
Yeah.
I mean,
but she's also not in New York, is she?
Yeah, she is.
She?
She goes to the south, but she's in New York.
I thought
she's from New York. They're all from New York.
It's the rallies that are down in the south. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
She goes south for sure. But yeah, overall, like it would just be one of those things that like hers would stand out a little bit more because it's harder to hide.
What
if
you made it so she's in mostly in like her apartment and stuff like that, where it's like the internal and stuff like that? Maybe show her a little bit less. I just think it would be a little fun game to see, you know, how many viewers catch on that they're from 3 different decades when they're showing them.
Yeah, but then again, I also say that you wouldn't see the full quartet until the next season. I think the first season would be Jake and Roland, Flag.
Maybe don't introduce Eddie and Susanna until, you know, like episode 7.
I'm saying like season 2. Like they show up in season 2. Season 1 is completely book 1. You know, in the same way, I know people bitched about the movie not having, you know, the full quartet.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do them in the first season if it were me because I don't know, like they don't belong there. Like in the second season though, that's suddenly where you're like, wait. You know, like what the hell's going on here? Like,
well, you were just saying book 1 wouldn't be able to do a season.
Yeah, that's why you do a shorter one. Do it on streaming to where you can do 6 episodes long and just cover.
And then
what's
season
in book
2
one.
would be longer.
Yeah, 13 episodes.
And season 3 would be longer than season
potentially.
2.
Yeah,
season 4 would be longer than season 3.
I think 13 is like a magic number for most of the books. I think most of the books can get covered in that period of time. I'm just saying in book 2 you'd have to maybe somewhat cheat it out, not that it would even be bad to cheat it out, because some of that stuff you could reveal stuff that's internal monologue, like some of the flashbacks. You can show some backstory with Eddie.
Yeah.
You can show some backstory with Susanna. You can show some of that stuff to where it's like, I don't know, like reveal that stuff in the course of the show to where then later on when that shit becomes more important, the audience has already seen it. You don't have to worry about Susanna in her mind remembering the brick hitting her or the train or whatever. No, you show that stuff.
Yeah.
show this little girl getting hit by a brick, and then show this girl getting pushed in front of a train.
And that's what I'm saying.
And then eventually show like this girl like at a rally getting like pissing herself in a jail cell because they won't let her use the restroom. But it's like so then like people would just be like, wait, why are they like? Obviously it's the same character, but like this doesn't make a lot of sense. But then like the doors show up at some point for Roland, and you're like, okay, well this is probably the doors.
The only problem with that is you take away a lot of stuff that happens later in the series with reveals and character development. Then you basically put Eddie, Susanna, and Jake from book 5 back in book 2 with Roland.
Well, no, I'm just talking the flashback elements. Like they can still deal with those things later, and they may even like reference them to like the surrounding characters of like issues they've had in their past.
Oh, okay.
But make it to where like you're not like stopping in the middle of season 5 or 6 to go back and show this stuff, but show
where it's infuriating, where you're like, oh my god, just get going.
Yeah, go forward. No. But do it early on where you're just like, at first you're just like, I mean, us book fans would obviously know instantly, but like normal watchers just be like, wait, what's going on here?
Well, there's an idea, Chris.
And see it all converted. Dude, even have freaking the pusher.
Oh yeah,
have him like follow him a little bit as a normal dude before you even reveal the fact that he's doing anything.
Yeah,
crazy.
just follow him on a normal day, and then he drops a brick on Susanna's head.
That'd be interesting.
Chris had an interesting idea. He said, what if one episode per character showing the different time periods? So, like, you have stuff going on with Roland. Well, I don't know if he was meaning that, but I would think you'd still have stuff going on with Roland in between, Eddie, and then the next episode you have things going on with Roland, and you have Jake, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, indeed. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities for sure. And then Scott goes on and says, for those who prize source fidelity above all else, for those who believe that the Dark Tower's cardinal sin was attempting to crunch a huge mythological tale into an 86-minute adventure movie, a long-form TV show, one where one book can span an entire season, is the ideal answer. And I would totally agree with that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's just what we were just saying. And I, like, honestly, like when you start thinking about like the even the later books that get a lot bigger, do you think any of those couldn't fit in like a 13-episode thing when you really draw down to the core of what actually happens in them? Without like all the internal monologue, without all that like whatever, like like a conversation that might be a 30-page thing in the book might be a 5-minute scene in the movie.
Callahan's story.
Yeah, I mean
that's a perfect example of where you can take a half an episode to tell Callahan's story. Yeah, and you just covered the majority of book 5. Like, okay, we have Black 13. Now we know where it is. Okay.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, that's definitely, I don't know. I think that's the trick, man. I want to see it happen. I want to see, and I think Netflix is the ultimate, just because like didn't Hulu screw us with 11/22/63 where we had to wait a week between episodes, or did they drop the whole thing? Yeah, they did.
They did every week.
Bastards.
Yeah.
So like,
because
Netflix, man,
you talked about doing.
They just drop it all at once.
Yeah,
and then we can just watch it all.
You talked about it with 11/22/63 hating that, and you're like, man, I'm just not used to that. Even Amazon doesn't do that to us. You're like, I might just wait till it's done and then watch it.
I know people that do that. I know I have some. We have some people we work with, like for like Better Call Saul. They didn't get into the new season until it was like the second or third to last week of the whole series. So by the time they watched it, they were able to binge the entire season almost, and they only watched the last couple episodes live. So, and that's not a bad way to go if you have the patience for such things. I heard people even debating that for Game of Thrones, but that is foolishness. That'd be foolish.
Yeah, one of our friends was saying that he was going to do that, and he didn't make it past the first episode. Then Scott goes on and says, and while I once would have noted that the movie to television would cost the property its intended scope and scale, the likes of Game of Thrones, The Flash, and Shadowhunters have convinced me that a decent-sized budget can approximate the literary fantasy in question. And then he goes on and says, the CW superhero crossover where Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, and the Legends of Tomorrow team up to stop an alien invasion certainly felt like a television-sized Justice League adventure, but otherwise there isn't much that the CW shows or Netflix or Marvel shows can't do in terms of offering the required character development, mythology, and fan-favorite character/story arcs. And then he says the level, and I actually thought this is really interesting. He says the level of action and spectacle featured in Arrow isn't that much different from a theoretical Green Arrow movie. You're essentially trading maybe 10 to 30% less action/spectacle for 100 to 300% more character and story. That's true,
and that really is true. So like that's what it comes down to there. If like at the heart of this, that's what it comes down to with Dark Tower. Even with that question we asked earlier that we threw out, is it worth losing that 10 to 30% spectacle, and some of that might even be bigger casting, for 100 to 300% more character and story? Is that worth it for Dark Tower fans? And that's so I guess that would even add to the question we asked earlier. Is like, maybe address that in your emails and stuff. Is like, Think about that. Is it worth losing maybe even some of the special effects a little bit, but not? It's not a ton. You're not losing like 70% of it. No, you might lose 10 to 30% because like nowadays TV can pull off an awful lot.
Yes, it can.
But then you trade that for 100 to 300% more character and story, and that's an interesting. I really like how he put that. That's definitely a good one. Then he says, sure, you can't get something like The Force Awakens on a TV budget, but the animated Star Wars shows have offered action spectaculars on the level of the last few movies with the ability to tell long-form stories and slowly build character arcs.
Yeah.
And then he goes on and says, after mentioning DC Animated being more popular than DCEU, that's the joke. Audiences love comic book movies and the TV shows, and they love the characters more than action. Ditto with the Twilight Saga, the Hunger Games, and Harry Potter. So if you lose some action but get some more story/characters, it's a win for the fans.
Yep.
So like, and that's an interesting thing there. Like, let's see, I think like the DC one, he talked about that I cut out. He was talking about some of the animated DC shows that have been fairly well renowned and how they're animated, but at the same time they're a lot. You maybe even see more scenes where people are standing around talking and developing characters more than like fighting.
Well, you even see that in like he also mentioned the Star Wars animated shows. I had no desire to watch Star Wars Rebels because I thought it was a kids show. It's on Disney XD and everything like that. And then you convinced me to watch season 1. Man, that is not just a kids show. Like, it caters to kids a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the humor and the action that's designed for kids. But you're right. There is definitely scenes where they stand around and they talk and they advance the plot and they give us, stuff to think about and everything like that. And like, oh, will he? Won't he? Is she going to turn on them? Is she going to betray them? Is she going to stay loyal? That's stuff that you don't see in, Cartoon Network or other Disney.
You're not seeing that in a Scooby-Doo
shows.
episode.
No, Scooby-Doo, that's a perfect way of saying it. You're not going to see that kind of stuff in a Scooby-Doo episode.
Yeah.
And that's a very interesting medium to think about with covering your bases there. I mean, you got me and my daughter watched Rebels together. She was 3 at the time.
Yeah.
She loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah. I love it.
We're in our 30s for crying out loud.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't have any kids. I love Rebels,
but
man,
the big
and
thing,
Clone Wars.
Yeah,
too.
the big thing is that we grew up Star Wars fans.
Yeah, totally.
So,
but yeah, I think But I like what he's getting at there, though, is that with all of these, most fans would gladly trade action for story and character.
Oh, yeah.
And like with any of this stuff, like, and I don't know how Harry Potter is or Twilight or Hunger Games, but I would imagine it's the same thing. Like, honestly, the spectacle and action is less important to people than actual character. Like,
I remember there being a big hoopla when Harry Potter decided to go 8 movies instead of 7, because 7 books, 1 per movie. I remember the big hoopla with everyone on social media losing their minds. They're like, oh, this is just them trying to be trying to make money and they're just trying to screw us out of more money. And I looked at it and I remember posting on my sister's post who was adamant they were just trying to rip us off. And I said, that's a big book. I would prefer they split it so that I just get more.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting more Harry Potter. Like, I don't have a problem with this. I don't understand why everyone's out, like, get your pitchforks and torches and stuff. Like, honestly, and the thing is that I look at it, and 7 and 8 are probably regarded as the best Harry Potters.
Yeah.
I mean, the kids grew up and they became, full-fledged actors in the last 4 or 5 movies.
Yeah.
But splitting it made it to where they included stuff in the story that probably wouldn't have made it if you do 1 movie.
Yeah.
And it's what you're talking about. Some of it was action, but it's also story driven more.
Yeah. Story and character driven. And honestly, it dawned on me just now while I was just even saying that last statement before you started, is with the Dark Tower movie, what's the stuff that people have been talking the most about that they love the most about the movie?
Fish out of water is a big thing.
Jake and Roland.
And then Jake and Roland.
That scene specifically in that warehouse with the
Gunslinger Creed. Yeah.
Like, that's a character moment. That's not
It is a character moment.
Like that's what we want to. I think in general that's what most fans want to see, and I almost think that's one of those things. And like, honestly, I mean, that's slightly tangential, but like with the newest season of Game of Thrones, and even dating into the last season, some of the things that were the most visually crazy and Hollywood-like in a lot of ways were actually very unpopular with watchers.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where even like the finale of this newest season, and not getting into any spoilers here, but there was like a lot of very like people would maybe even say slower scenes. There are a lot more people standing in rooms talking. I've seen a lot of like podcasts that talk about that with Game of Thrones. Like, you know, that's what the show was for the first 4 or 5 seasons, is people standing in rooms talking. And there was a lot of that in that finale. And guess what? The finale was beloved, whereas like the previous 2 episodes to the finale of Game of Thrones were very poorly looked upon by a lot of fans. And that gets back right to it. Character and story, man, over spectacle. You could show me spectacle, but guess what? I'm seeing spectacle 15 times a year in theaters. Like all I have to do is go to a summer blockbuster. I'm going to get spectacle.
Here's
if
the
you're
big thing.
TV, show me something that I'm not going to see. Look at like Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad does not have a lot of spectacle. I mean, there's a few things here and there or whatever, but overall, that show is about showing me something where the Hollywood can never do. Hollywood can't show me Walter White's story from Breaking Bad.
Okay,
they can't. They could show me a freaking Iron Man with 700 suits flying around fighting extremist people, but TV can't do that. But what do I prefer?
Here's the question. Okay, let's use Iron Man 3 since you bring that up. It's a very big special effects film.
Yeah,
a good film.
I liked it.
We both enjoyed it.
Totally. I just took it as an example.
Tell me the truth.
As it's like something that's super crazy. Going on that came to mind.
This is perfect to go in the question that I was going to ask you. Tell me the truth. Over the next 5 years, what are you going to watch more? Breaking Bad or Iron Man 3?
Well, I mean, I think those are tomatoes to apples because you're talking like a 70 some odd hour thing versus a 2-hour movie.
Right. But straight up though, honestly, over the next 5 years, which are you going to watch more?
I would probably honestly watch Iron Man just because it's shorter and like I could just throw it on and watch it in an afternoon. Whereas Breaking Bad, I'm like, this is going to be a dedication.
But you watch Breaking Bad once a year.
I haven't in the last few years.
You've been telling me you've been craving Breaking Bad so bad.
It's true, but it's a huge commitment.
It is.
Whereas like Iron Man isn't. It's like,
but that also plays into the equation. Like, then is that even if you watch one time for Breaking Bad, it would almost count as like 3 watches for Iron Man because of the amount of time you're putting into it.
Yeah,
but that's your thing though. Is I don't hear you telling me, man, I really am craving Iron Man 3. I hear you telling me, man, I'm really craving Breaking Bad
because I haven't watched it in a couple of years.
Yeah,
where I think almost what it's like is like a book versus a song. Like, do you want to listen to Stairway to Heaven or do you want to read The Stand? To me, that's the reason. Like, okay, they're both good for sure, but I'm probably gonna listen to Stairway to Heaven a hell of a lot more than I'm gonna read The Stand, just because like throwing a 4-minute song on is easier. That's all I'm saying. Is like, I'm not trying to like discredit your point. I'm just saying that's why Iron Man is probably one I'm gonna watch more, just because it's so easy to just throw in and watch in an afternoon. Versus like,
I don't know. How many times have you watched Avengers: Age of Ultron? Can you say that you've watched it more than 20 times?
The problem is I go through and I watch a bunch of them when a new movie's
okay, so
out.
maybe the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a bad example there. Let me look at your movies over here and find an action movie that...
But also in the chat, people are loving the Breaking Bad stuff. But yeah, you guys are... I totally agree. Breaking Bad's one of my all-time favorite things, for sure.
I mean, okay, when's the last time you watched Backdraft?
Oh, I don't know. Ages.
Why not?
I don't know. Well, I don't know.
Exactly. Do you crave to watch Backdraft?
No, most of my collection's up there because it is a movie at some point that I'd probably decide,
right.
Like, I might want to watch that.
Well, no, but that goes into what we're talking about is like Backdraft. Well, maybe not Backdraft. That's a little bit older and like, gosh, I can't find a movie that fits my point, and it's driving me nuts.
Well, and like I said,
you know what I'm trying to say.
What I'm saying with like the Iron Man versus Breaking Bad isn't necessarily, like I said, I'm not trying to discredit your point. I'm just saying the ease of Iron Man is what's going to make it watch more, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a better overall experience.
My point is that you're not going to crave Iron Man 3 as much as you're going to crave Breaking Bad. You're watching Iron Man 3 because you're about to go watch Thor and you want to watch part of the cinematic universe that came before it. You're not craving it specifically for what Iron Man 3 brought to the table. That's what I'm saying. You're craving it simply because, okay, well, I need to go back and get a little bit more backstory before I go see Thor Ragnarok next month or in 2 months. You're not craving the 700 suits versus the bad guys. You're craving the backstory. You're not craving that. You're craving the story of Breaking Bad. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is that it's not the visual effects of Iron Man that's bringing you back to the movie. It's the fact that you want to watch the cinematic universe in order. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to find another movie that fits better.
But even like in Breaking, like, or in the context like Game of Thrones, for instance, like when I go through and watch certain scenes back on like YouTube, for instance, I'll be like, I want to go watch that scene. I don't know if I've ever gone back on there to watch the Battle of the Bastards, for instance. But you better believe I've gone and watched like the High Council scene with Oberyn Martell and Tywin Lannister together.
Right.
Because again, people in rooms talking, that is some of the best stuff of that show that they've ever done. Now, Battle of the Bastards is an achievement, but it isn't one of those things that draws me into like going back and watching repeatedly.
Right.
It's spectacle. It's as good as Hollywood could do. But I think that would almost be a good thing to point as a point to your like what your argument is. But for sure, but character and story, that's what drives people. That's what, to me, and that's why I think that it might be a good idea to see, you know, Dark Tower, because Dark Tower is so much about the characters and the story more than the spectacle. I mean, in the books, like what spectacle is there? Like, what are the most spectacular moments in the book? Shardik is probably one of the big ones, and that's early on.
Shardik.
Spectacle, like something that's big, something that would take $150 million movie. Like, so much of the show is not. I mean,
No.
Blaine's a small set, would be a small set.
The Wastelands would be pretty.
But nothing they couldn't do on television.
No.
Nothing they couldn't do on television.
No, because you don't see much of the Wastelands. I think they look out 3 times. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think that what do we got, people bad mouthing stuff?
We have you getting booed for picking Iron Man 3 over Breaking Bad.
Well, you guys see what I was saying. Like, I mean, in terms of watching it more. Now, what am I going to enjoy watching more? Breaking Bad for sure. But what am I going to potentially watch more in the course of a 3-year period? Probably Iron Man 3, because it's so short. Like, it's easy to throw on and watch. Like, and then like and then Iron Man 3, I don't know, like, get people getting into MCU movie discussions.
Yeah,
I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah.
But, you know, but overall though, I think that like with the Dark Tower, so much of it is character driven and story driven that a show might be the best route for it. Because it's playing to the strengths of the source material. It's not very Dark Tower doesn't have those moments where it's just like massive, you know, like whatever it might be. I don't know. Like I said, Shardik would be a big one. Shardik could be one of the bigger moments for like special effects. That would be a big scene, like having a giant bear that's like taking half a forest down.
The wolves. I don't think you could do the wolves practical and make them look really good. I think they'd have to be CG.
I think you'd have to do the hybrid. I think and I'm almost calling it nowadays the Force Awakens hybrid. Like Ankar Plot in Force Awakens was a practical costume, but then they CG'd parts of the face.
Let's make it. Let's call it by its real name. The Andy Serkis effect with.
No, because
with the motion capture with Golem and.
Well, no, because that's a totally different thing. That's 100% motion capture. What I'm talking about is Ankar Plot was literally Simon Pegg in a giant bulbous costume. And it had his face on it and stuff. But what they did is then they CG'd the face part to make him move the facial stuff. Like if you watch the behind the scenes stuff, it's very interesting. So then they CG'd just his face, because then now you have the practical dude, but his face moves and it has like the stuff you can't get with rubber and latex.
Right.
Like he has a lot more inflection and stuff. And that, like, to me, is this magic that they came up with. I think it's a perfect balance and stuff. Like I think you could do something like that with the wolves, like do it a practical costume, but then maybe make like the face, like whether the eyes are lighting up or whatever it might be.
If you're making thin robot arms, I don't think you can do that practical, is what I'm saying. It's because they described the wolves as being, you know, like Andy-esque, which was long and tall.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I'm saying go more the Andy Serkis route, where you have, like, you know, guys that are Avatar kind of thing, where, yes, you have guys playing them, but still they got to be motion captured.
Yeah, but even that, like, it's not super, like, special effects heavy. It's not super.
No,
it's not like $150, $200 or $200 million budget.
And that would be one episode.
There's nothing in Dark Tower that requires that.
No.
Now, I mean, thinking about it overall, I haven't really thought about it till just now, but it really doesn't. Like, this series is so much about those, like, that character, that the story, the character moments,
the relationships,
like the whatever it might be, and a lot of times like I said, like Blaine, I think, isn't Blaine one of the most beloved things in all the books, period, is probably Blaine. More people mention that scene than anything else.
Yeah.
And that's a lot about character. That's a lot about...
And that's just going to be... We could shoot Blaine's scene in this office.
Yeah.
If we got the money, we could dress up this office to look like the interior of a locomotive. This could be Blaine right here.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Then it goes. Then Scott actually goes on here, says that's the danger of Hollywood obsession with creating cinematic universes with big budgets that attempt to replicate episodic television. Once TV can either match the spectacle or at least approximate it, feature film franchises of that nature will lose their primary trump card. And that's a very interesting thought. Like now that TV's starting to kind of catch up with movies in a lot of ways to where, and I think when it comes down to special effects are cheaper now than they've ever been before. Like, so like you can like look at like things like he mentions like the Flash and stuff like that. There's stuff on the Flash where, like that 15 years ago you couldn't have done on television, but you can now.
The giant shark dude.
Like you can now though. Like special effects are cheaper now than they ever have been.
Oh yeah.
And that are at least, they may not be $200 million budget good, but they're good enough to where it's like I could see that. Like
I could stomach that for 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the other thing too, is that we're not doing something where it's, you know, Andy Serkis in a
it's not Smeagol level.
Yeah, playing Smeagol or Caesar, you know, where it's CG for a character for 2.5 hours or something like that. Okay, you're gonna CG a wolf. Okay, that's one episode of Dark Towers, you know, Wolves of the Kala.
Do you think the wolf attack could be one episode?
Yeah. I don't see how you could stretch it into 2. Dude, it's such an easy battle for the gunslingers, honestly. Like, aside from the one hiccup, it is a fucking massacre.
But I think it'd be the entire episode, though.
I think it's honestly probably the most one-sided fight in the entire series.
I think it would be one that almost take the whole episode, though. Like you get like the quote cliffhanger before.
It'll be the cliffhanger. It'll be the cliffhanger before is where what lets them know that the wolves are coming.
I can't.
Oh no, they figure out the day.
Yeah,
Eddie gets the day from Andy.
Andy tells them like that they're coming and stuff.
Honestly, what it should be is them waking up in the morning and then setting out and then seeing the dust cloud.
Now
that's your cliffhanger.
Do you trick the audience with Roland's plan?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question about. Oh, come on. Come on, man. Really? Of course you do.
Oh, then Scott goes on and says, Marvel pulled it off because they initially focused on character and standalone narratives over spectacle and mythology world building. In that sense, the MCU is a lot like Lost or X-Files, which didn't get crazy into mythology until the end of season 2, beginning of season 3, while Imitators were the likes of The Event or Flash Forward, which began with mythology before anyone cared about any of the characters. And that's an interesting concept.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, that you got to get people to love the characters before you start getting the deeper mythologies.
Honestly, it was one of the things that turned me off on Lost, is I cared so much about the characters, and then it became more about like the island and solving the island's mysteries, and I'm like, I don't give a crap. Give me the survivors.
Yeah,
like I would have watched 6 seasons of them just trapped on an island.
I have never watched a minute of that show.
The first 10 minutes of Lost have to be
I know people. I've
most intense 10 minutes of television that I've ever started a TV show with.
I don't know. There's some Breaking Bad scenes that are
no first 10 minutes of a show.
First 10 minutes.
First 10 minutes of a show. Lost wins hands down. Hands down.
Sorry, we keep going back to Breaking Bad, but that is a very interesting concept that he brings up. That
what do you mean, poor Andy, Chris? Andy's an evil, vile robot destroying children. What is wrong with you? Your life's almost as bad as Tad. Are you serious? Poor Andy? Oh my gosh, that character is what gets your pity? Andy the robot. Man.
Oh, I love it when Peter goes off like that. That's the best. I guess if you're listening to the podcast version, if you didn't pick up from Peter's rant there, Chris in the chat said poor Andy.
Wow.
Based on our conversation there about Andy the robot from Wolves of the Kala.
Man. Feeling for the Slightman, okay. I kind of get that one.
I think he's more detestable than Andy.
No, he's not.
He has choice and free will. Andy's just programmed.
No, Andy is a vile, disgusting creature.
Oh,
man, poor Andy.
And then Scott goes on and says, but Arrow and Flash have changed the game for comic book television, and Shadowhunters is offering soapy young adult fantasy thrillers, somewhat approximate to both the source material and its big screen cousin. So when you hear about the Dark Tower going to TV or Dread getting a television sequel, it may no longer be a demotion or an admission of failure. And he says, sure, Sony would rather have a vibrant Dark Tower cinematic franchise, but we've reached a point where most fans of any given fantasy property would rather have a TV show over a film franchise. If you get the soap opera, you get the character development. You don't have to please the entire world, and that's a very interesting thought. Well, let me finish his thought because it's the last bit of his article, and then we'll go back to this. And he says, you don't have to please the entire world, and the difference between television fantasy action effects and movie action effects is becoming increasingly small. For fans and general viewers, a fantasy franchise going to TV may be getting the best of both worlds. And I just, I think honestly he hit the nail on the head with that little bit there when he says you don't have to please the whole world. And actually, that got me to the point where it's like, how much did a lot of us worry at that last like month or so?
Well,
about like, I hope people like it because like ultimately the success and the future of our
movie franchise,
our movie in a lot of ways, we feel it's ours, is dependent on how the rest of the world sees it, how the rest of the world reacts. Like you don't have that with television as much. I mean, of course, you have to get some people watching it and stuff, but like it doesn't have the same kind of like do or die. Like a TV show might have a few seasons to like to grow and build and stuff. There's shows like Star Trek was canceled and then the fans wrote in and got it put back on television for a few more seasons. I mean, of course, we have Firefly's the outlier that just dies, but
it just died.
But in general, TV, you get a little bit more room to breathe and allow things to grow and build a fan base. Whereas a movie, it's like
Game of Thrones.
Thing.
It's like Game of Thrones. When did you come into Game of Thrones?
Well, I think they've exponentially grown too, haven't they? Didn't they say that like over the last like 3 or 4 years? And then Breaking Bad did the exact same thing.
Yeah,
Breaking Bad went from like like I think it's like if you look at the finale, what the ratings were, I think for the first couple seasons was like a fraction of that. Yeah, like maybe 5 or 6% of the final thing, and then like it just grows. And like, I mean, Vince Gilligan said that Netflix is actually the thing that actually made Breaking Bad successful.
Yeah, because they put the seasons on there.
Yeah, they put it on there, and everyone go in and binge 2 seasons.
It was one of the first shows that did that,
and
it wasn't a completed show going on Netflix. It was a season by season show going on Netflix. It was one of the first really big shows, and actually, if I remember right, Breaking Bad paved the way for Walking Dead to do that.
Yeah, and I don't think Breaking Bad has ever left Netflix.
No,
as a point of fact, because it is that important, and like it's one of those.
It's a staple.
It is one of those weird things where if you look at like the rating numbers from a finale of Breaking Bad to the next premiere, there's always this huge bump. There's always this huge jump where it's like, oh, we had 5 million watching on the finale. Now we have 10 million watching the next premiere. Like
it's the same with Game of Thrones.
Does the same thing. Yeah,
they were talking about the series finale for last season, not the one that just aired, but last year, and they talked about the premiere of this year, and it like tripled or something like that. It's like, where did all these people come from?
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's one of those things that like TV definitely has that effect, and like then you have things like that, like even like looking at Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad, for all intents and purposes, may have got canceled early on.
Yeah,
with its ratings that it had, but it stayed on, and then like it's one of those things that Netflix then this weird X factor is able to come out and help that show grow and help it become one of the greatest shows of all time, if not the greatest show of all time. So yeah, it's just it's one of those things that you don't have to worry about the weight of the world on a single movie. And that's maybe good for us fans because now we don't have to, get ulcers going, God, I hope this movie does good because I want to see more,
Exactly.
I don't know.
You don't like it? Don't watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing with TV shows. It's like we were talking to a friend a couple of weeks ago about Daredevil and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and all the Defenders and everything like that. And we were telling him like, hey, you kind of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You should check out the Defenders on Netflix and everything. And he's like, no, it's not my cup of tea. Well, okay, that isn't going to affect Netflix's opinion on whether or not they should make, Luke Cage season 2.
Yeah.
It's not. They're going to make it because guess what? Enough people are watching it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's it for that article. And I think, I just thought that was some good discussions. And I think that kind of adds to like the question that we're asking people for the next few shows as they want to email in. So next up, I have one more article before we get into emails.
Before you start that article, I got to give Cody credit. We're going to have a first on the show right now.
Yeah.
# Chris is terrible.
I don't know. Well, beyond the hosts, I guess that's true because I've done # Peter is terrible.
Yes, you have.
Indeed. So.
But that's a first for one of our live listeners in the chat to get a hashtag.
It's like if this is a video game, you get an achievement for that, Chris.
Ping! Achievement unlocked.
All right, so next up we have one more article, and then we'll get into emails. This article is titled "The Dark Tower: Where Can the Franchise Go From Here?" and this is by Becky Fuller from Screen Rant on August 17, 2017. And she says, "While The Dark Tower should have and indeed could have been one of the best movies of 2017, it has fallen flat. The problem with the movie is the problems with the movie are plentiful. It's impossible to pinpoint one exact reason why it's not as good as it should have been. But the source material and the lead actors cannot bear the blame." And she actually did a little bit of like praising of like obviously Matthew and Idris, and I think that was the two main ones because that's like the big like that was got a lot of news.
It's the duo, yeah.
It got even when they announced it was one of those things where it's like holy shit, Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey are going to be in a movie together. Like leading a movie. Like,
Yeah.
not to like slight Tom at all, but that's the two that she pointed out. Then she goes on and says the Dark Tower is only 95 minutes long, which also raised alarm bells for many. King work spans 7 full-length novels, 2 slightly shorter novels, a comic book series, and it's surely impossible to decently retell an event one of the novels for any one of the novels in 95 minutes. Then there's Sony's seeming reluctance to promote the movie, which led some to assume that it was because the studio didn't have any faith in it. And that's not to say The Dark Tower is a bad film. It's just not great. And after all those years waiting for it to be made into a movie, fans are left disappointed. And I think that's an interesting point there is like, is some fans' disappointment because of the amount of wait that we had? Like, if this had gone into production 2 years ago or so, when it did, and that was the first time, like, say Stephen King sold the rights to the books then, and then it came out that, like, now, and we didn't have 10 years of developmental hell, does that change people's expectations?
Yeah, probably. Definitely would.
Yeah. I think even for me, I think honestly, like if it had come out just as a quick turnaround and stuff, I think maybe even I would have felt a little bit differently about it just because, you don't have as much built-in expectation. And then she goes on and says, but as previously stated, the source material is strong and there isn't any need to change the cast. So where does Dark Tower go from here? And she says they're already in place for a tie-in TV series based on the 4th Dark Tower novel, Wizard and Glass. The novel is mainly one long flashback to Roland's past, and it is a great origin story. The show already has Glenn Mazzara, and then she says in parentheses, The Walking Dead, appointed as showrunner. And then this is actually an older article. I think this is from August 17th, so this is before Nikolai backed out. And she says with Arcel working on a script once more, though it is yet to find a home on any network. So again, I do think that Nikolai's walked away, but again, this is an older article. She said, and then she goes on and says the TV show certainly would work well, especially on a streaming service where viewers could watch as much or as little as they like in one sitting. And which I say amen to that, man. I would love nothing more than a Wizard and Glass weekend. Just
yes.
Nothing but it's like just buy up enough like food or alcohol or whatever you might need and just like not leave the house and just watch Wizard and Glass for I don't know what 13 hours hopefully.
Wouldn't that be awesome? That would just be the best.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I'm a huge binge watcher. Like when it comes to a lot of these things, like I don't like sit around and watch movies and TV shows all the time. But like when something big like that's coming out, like I think Stranger Things I watched in a weekend, Defenders I watched in a weekend. Like I'm big into like just getting into something and just watching through it. I don't hold on to ones and let them last very long. Some people are like, oh yeah, it took me a couple weeks to watch something because I kind of wanted it to spread out and last a little bit. I'm like, I don't get you. Then she goes on and says, this hasn't dissuaded Arcel from discussing a sequel, though in a recent interview he hinted that the inspiration for the next Dark Tower movie will come from, and she says the 3rd novel, Drawing of the Three, but she obviously means the 2nd novel. He also, and like when I first read that, I'm like, okay, wait, did she mix up Wizard and Glass thinking that Wizard and Glass is an earlier novel because it's an origin story? Then I scrolled back up where she like had that, where she talked about Wizard and Glass. She called it the 4th book there. I don't know why she called it the 3rd book for Drawing of the Three. And she said he also hinted at that we haven't seen the last of the Man in Black, though really that's no surprise at all. And she says one of the criticisms of the Dark Tower was that it was a confusing mess at times. That could well continue with the 2nd movie and the TV series messing up the timelines for the Dark Tower events. Assuming the TV series arrives before the 2nd movie, and let's face it, that's likely, then Eddie, Susanna, and Oi would have to be introduced in the TV show. And I don't agree with her there. I think she's kind of taking it so literal that like she's thinking that if Wizard and Glass is the next thing, that Eddie and Susanna would just magically be there hearing the story. No. And I don't think they would do that. I think they would adapt it to where he's only telling it to Jake. And
probably, yeah.
Yeah. Then she goes on and says, therefore, at the very least, Arcel and Sony have some serious mapping out to do before they even contemplate the true nature of the TV show and any subsequent movies. They have 2 Dark Tower franchises, but to have 2 Dark Tower franchises existing on different mediums, but not connecting, and yet using the same actors would be profoundly ridiculous. And I think that's always been the criticism of the idea from Ron Howard and them is that can audiences track with that? Can an audience that is largely unfamiliar be trusted to watch a movie and then watch a TV series, then go back and watch a movie and then watch another TV series and watch a movie? Or are they going to get lost? Are there going to be people that just watch the movies and then lose a good chunk of the story? And I think that's a very good question for sure.
Yeah, that is a definite valid question. Is like, are people who are going to go to movies going to sit down and stream this before the next movie?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if they would. We've talked about this, haven't we?
Yeah, I think so.
Where we didn't know if people would actually do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like in the chat, Lou was saying the Dark Tower needed a Lord of the Rings type treatment, and I think that something like that would definitely have been good if they could have got the budget and like had the room to breathe on that kind of thing. But I think that like a TV series, I think the reason most people are going toward that is just because we are in the gold age of television, and TV is so much better right now than movies. I honestly think that's the biggest reason people keep saying TV or TV over movies. But it's true. I think movies could, if they were done right, could still execute the story well. But yeah, it would have to be a little bit more Lord of the Rings-ish, where, like, because Lord of the Rings didn't necessarily go for all spectacle. It had its spectacle, but there was a lot more character and story involved in Lord of the Rings than most Hollywood blockbusters.
Oh yeah.
So, but then again, you also have a built-in audience of 40 years of book fans that were going to go see it. Like,
yeah.
Like they also had that. I mean, we have book readers too, but I think that like Lord of the Rings is a different hit level than Dark Tower is.
Lord of the Rings
inspired Dark
huge.
Tower.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's one of those things. I don't think Dark Tower has the same span, although Dark Tower does have a lot more than people give it credit for sure. Then she goes on and says, if the actors are willing and would be able to move entirely to the franchise to TV, starting with Drawing the Three, moving into Wizard and Glass, and so on, that would also give a chance for the show to be rated R or TVMA, as King said that he would like it to be. Word of the mouth reviews have been damaging to the cinematic success of the Dark Tower, but there is still hope the franchise can continue as long as it's given the respect to that the source material deserves. So I think she's mostly just saying that like the whole idea of having the two things going forward is foolish. And like it basically by way of asking what's next for the Dark Tower, she's kind of answering the question of it probably should transfer 100% to TV, which I think a lot of us would get behind.
I'd be there.
Yeah. And then she actually, I have one more article I forgot about, and this is actually completely unrelated to the movie, and it is actually one I just found, and it is the headline is, "You can now have a Stephen King cover art hanging in your living room." And it is by Elizabeth Rain from Sci-Fi Wire, and it was written on September 6, 2017. And she says, admit it, you've always wanted the original cover for The Shining to be the only family portrait hanging above your fireplace, and that hissing feline of Pet Sematary to scare away unwanted guests at the front door. Lucky for you, Suntup Press has just made that possible. She says, obsessed with books in the best possible way, as I am. Founder Paul Suntup is now working with artists who inspired the memorable images like Jake escaping from the monster house in the Dark Tower series, or the shadow falling over the titular town in Salem's Lot into your nightmares. You don't want to wait too long on the shadow, though. These extremely limited signed prints include The Shining by Dave Christensen, Misery and It by Bob Gutsy, Pet Sematary by Linda Fenimore, and Dark Tower 3 The Wastelands by Ned Dameron, and Dark Tower Series 1 and 2 composites by Tony Morrow. When the books were originally published, it was with the astounding art. Some of the parts had to be cropped out to fit the cover, so we never really got to see the artist's entire vision until now. The unprecedented macro view of the details also not to be missed. There are amazing water reflections, effects on it, Guns N' Roses where you'd least expect to find them in the Dark Tower compositions, and the multi-dimensional glowing eyes of Pet Sematary. So that's kind of just some of the text here. Now we can actually get into the pictures themselves. And only some of these are Dark Tower related, but I think that with everything being on some level of the tower, they're all worth looking at. So the first one is The Wastelands. And this is one that if you have one of the few different publications of the book, you have seen this before. Is this in yours?
No.
You don't have this with the pictures?
I've never seen that before.
Oh, really?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, this is one I'm pretty familiar with. It's pretty legit. Yeah, that one's pretty cool, and it was pretty fun to see. And I would love this, but it's pretty limited. So if you guys want them, jump out and get them. I have yet to do that. I might have to look into it here pretty soon, especially since we're doing this on the podcast, and now a bunch of people will be privy to that this is going on.
If anyone wants to buy us one.
And then next up,
oh, that is way cool.
Yeah, this is It, and it's pretty great looking. And it's obviously the boat and the gutter.
Right next to the drain.
One of the most iconic scenes in It, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is another Dark Tower.
That's the one I would want.
Yeah, Dark Tower series, and this is pretty legit. It's got, I don't know, this is just an amazing piece of art for sure, and it is definitely a good one. Next up,
ugh, creepy.
Pet Sematary. Gotta love that little kitty.
Yeah, and the dad carrying his son.
Yeah. And then next up,
Misery. Your favorite.
That's a good book. Crazy movie, too. Kathy Bates, man. Still don't trust her. And then The Shining with the animals.
Oh, the hedge animals.
Yeah. It's pretty great. And then
Salem's Lot with the sun going down.
I got the Salem's Lot thing there. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, I will have that stuff in the show notes if you guys want to go to that article that she goes into like this article I read from a little bit, but she also has a link to the website that's selling this stuff. They are pretty limited though. I think they're only doing, and I don't think they're all released at once. I think they're going to slowly unravel them as the time goes by. But I think there are like 50 or so copies being made of each one is all. So grab them while you can. So that will be definitely fun to have for Stephen King fans out there. So next up would, of course, be, and somebody was asking earlier about the sound effect, but let's see if I have it real quick.
You don't. You've disappointed us for so long, Ted. Looks like, is it Chris? Yeah, Chris said, this is in the middle of my Wastelands edition. I'm assuming that's what WL means, Wastelands.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I've seen that before. I can't remember where I've seen it because like I have like the more recent books, which are just the paperbacks, and they don't have a lot of the drawings in there.
Yeah.
But I must have seen it either online or I can't remember because I'm not like you. I don't have some of the older versions of the books, so I don't know where I've seen it. But I have seen it before. So yeah. So
you know what I'm bummed about?
What?
I can't find my Wolves of the Kala.
Oh yeah.
It's an older version too.
I'm sure it's around somewhere. You'll find it.
I can't find. I'm so mad, dude.
Did you lend it to someone?
I thought I did, and I talked to him, and he said he gave it back. It's not in my apartment. It's not at my parents' house, man. I can't. I'm so mad.
Oh man. All right, and then we will go to the next section. Of course, is
emails. It's the emails. Tad's gonna read us what people wrote to us.
I did not lose it. It's back. The email jingle. Yeah. So now over to email. All right. I think we should be back now. Sorry, guys. I don't know what the deal is with YouTube. I might have to look into some different software solutions. I don't know if it's the software I'm using or if it's YouTube. But, yeah, kind of annoying. Let's see. What is it showing on your end there? On the screen itself.
Oh, Chris says we're back.
Okay, cool. All right, we are back, guys. Sorry about that. I don't know why YouTube intends to drive us crazy here.
Yep, there we go. Looks good on my end, too.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, Cody's saying the jingle broke it. You have to do it live from now on.
Nope.
That's a good point, I think. I think that is a good idea. Okay, so yeah, now we're going to get into Daryl's email. Daryl starts off by saying, "Heil, gunslingers." Heil. It says, "Just wanted to share a quick story with you guys that made me smile. I just saw Wizard in the Glass sitting on one of my employees' desks, or one of my employees' desk. So I asked what she thought of the series so far. She gave me the weird puzzled look and asked me, "What do you mean series?" She had no idea about the Dark Tower series or the movie. She had just bought Wizarding Glass because it sounded like a good story. So I told her about the series, and she lit up like a Christmas tree. She came into work today with all 8 books, and she said she'd read 3/4 of The Gunslinger last night, and made me smile knowing that someone was going through the journey for the first time. I can't wait to get her reactions on everything."
That's so cool. I love it.
Wow, I can only imagine.
Well, who was it that we talked to?
Because what's the intro to that? Because
it's Blaine. It's the riddle contest.
Well, no, I mean, because he always has the argument where he recaps like the previous stuff.
Unless you just skipped it.
So unless you either skip it or unless you just think that like that is like you're starting in the middle of a story and the author is just giving you what the backstory would be if it had existed. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting.
I imagine she just skipped the argument.
Yeah.
As soon as she saw that it was the author writing, she went, "Yep, go into the story."
Can't do that, man. You know more than anyone. You can't do that. Then he signs off and says, "Long days and pleasant nights." Signed, Daryl in Minneapolis.
That's so cool.
That's awesome. I love it.
Didn't we have someone just a couple weeks ago say that they started with Wastelands?
Wastelands or Yeah.
I thought it was Wastelands because I was freaking out about the cliffhanger at the end of it, and I had to know if they were able to just go get book 4 or if they had to wait. And it turned out he had to wait.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Indeed. So next up is, thanks, Daryl, for that email. And he'll actually be back with us, spoiler alert, a little bit later with another email. But next up is Jennifer from Milwaukee. And Jennifer, if you'll remember, actually emailed us a little bit disappointed about the movie, but primarily with the death of Flag because being her favorite character.
Oh, right.
And also being disappointed about the fact of his death in the books as well, and thinking, whatever.
She was hoping wasn't she the one that was hoping the movie would fix his lame death in the books?
Yeah. So, Flag fan, of course, more than welcome here in this quartet.
No.
There is many of us in this quartet.
I know Chris was trying to get me to join a fan club earlier in the chat.
As much as Peter hates it, there is a lot of us Flag fans here in this pod.
I don't mind that you like Flag. I mind that you call him the good guy.
He's just trying to end it all, man. Trying to end the cycle.
Bad guy.
He's trying to save Roland's soul.
Bad
right?
guy.
Get him to stop the whole cycle.
Bad guy.
Break him out of the cycle. She says, thanks for reading my email about the movie. Appreciate your thoughts and had a few comments. Regarding your tangent about Flag's death, there are 2 problems with the idea that Mordred killed Flag to prove as an upgrade to the villain facing Roland. Because, I think that, I can't remember if we brought that up or even someone in the chat just said that that's kind of the way to upgrade Mordred is to have him kill off the villain that we've had since the beginning of the series, whatever. And she says a few things about that. She says, number 1, Mordred sucks as a villain and as a character, and as a character at all, which I think a lot of people agree. I don't think a lot of people necessarily like Mordred. Between him killing our beloved Flag and him killing Oi, I don't think that he has a huge fan club.
There's not a redeeming thing about him.
Oh man, yeah, I think that's the one thing we can all agree on here in our extended quartet is the hatred for Mordred.
Hashtag Mordred is terrible.
And then she says, number 2, Flag is not just a plot point in the Dark Tower. He was a major character in several stories that I adore. His dying in a stupid and embarrassing manner made the character that put everything into defeating him lesser. Larry, Ralph, and Glenn sacrificed themselves along with thousands of not completely evil people and more completely evil people in Las Vegas in order to save the world from him. Peter worked for years to be able to prove that Flag had killed his parents and prove his own innocence. And Thomas, in one of the better face turns in King books, turns himself into a hero in order to try to vanquish him once and for all. All of their sacrifices made less by the ignominious way that he ultimately goes down in the Dark Tower. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Hashtag Flag is terrible, and that's what makes him awesome, and that's what makes me hashtag Team Flag. And so I think that for me, I disconnect them a little bit. I don't necessarily allow like the Mordred death to affect like how I see him in The Stand or Eye of the Dragon or anything else, because like I don't know, like and like it's not like he. I don't know. I mean, it is kind of like dumb, but at the same time, like he did think that he had what he needed to avoid Mordred's shenanigans. He thought like the hood would protect him and stuff. So like, it's not like he was just going in as like this dumb Bond villain that was just like, oh, I'm just gonna walk into gunfire. No, he had a bulletproof vest on in his mind, but turned out it wasn't actually bulletproof vest.
Yeah, no, the killer just had armor-piercing bullets.
Yeah, and so overall, I personally have never let that cross over and let me like think lesser of him in the other stories, but I'm not necessarily saying that's wrong to do. I'm just saying that's something I've never done. So, but I could definitely see where that is.
Different minds think different ways. Yeah. But how do you feel about Callahan? I'm just curious. I'm not trying to like disprove you or anything, but Callahan's the one that came to my mind. He has a big part to play in the Dark Tower series, but also had a big part to play in Salem's Lot.
Big-ish. Salem's Lot, he kind of like doesn't show up for a while, then he shows up like midway through, and then he like disappears pretty quick too. So it's like, he
saves the main character's life,
but he has his role, but it's not as big as most would think. I think that was one of my biggest surprises going back and reading it for the first time probably since Dark Tower entered my life. Was like I always remembered him having a little bit of a bigger role. It might even just be because the last few times I'd ever encountered him was through Dark Tower, where he's the primary character. But like when you actually read Salem's Lot, you're like, the hell is Callahan?
Yeah, where's he at?
Then he finally shows up, and then they're like, okay, cool. And then like he leaves, and like, okay, well, I read the Dark Tower, so I know where like what happens, but like, does he not show up back in this book? Nope, he doesn't. So
he's on a bus.
That's what I'm saying. Big-ish. Like he isn't as big as he's not like a main character by any means. And
yeah.
Whereas I think some people, if you read the Dark Tower series, people might assume that he was like the main protagonist of Salem's Lot, and he's like the main guy against that force.
That's true.
So yeah, but no, I love him. I love Callahan. He's actually one of my favorite parts of.
How'd you feel about him after reading just Salem's Lot before you read Dark Tower? Because I have a very distinct memory.
I wouldn't be a fan of him just from Salem's Lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's so minimal in that.
Yeah.
That like no, if Dark Tower didn't exist, and it was just Salem's Lot, he wouldn't register on my radar of characters at all.
Gotcha.
So no, not at all. But yeah, with Dark Tower, that's where it really exemplifies things. But yeah, so I'm not necessarily saying that I don't cross over characters at all, but I'm just saying that like
For Flag,
I never let like his death by Mordred affect how I see him when I see him walking down that highway in the stand. You know, it just doesn't for me. That's not the way I look at it. But I could see the argument for sure. I mean, anything that kills Flag, I'm against. I'd love to just see him live a long, happy life and achieve his goals and that kind of thing. You almost had something there. It's like you had an intake of breath, like you're going to say something, and then you just shake your head.
I just can't do it. Oh my god! I already gave my rant to Chris earlier. I can't do it again.
And then she goes on and says, "I'm fairly certain that the moment that I became a hardcore Dark Tower fan was when I realized that Randall fucking Flag had just walked into the TikTok man's lair." And then she said, I don't know if the re-release made it clear earlier that the Man in Black is Randall Flagg. I'm old enough to have started early enough that I only have the original version. And I think even now there's still, even with the re-release, I think there's some debates. I think
they make it perfectly clear.
The arguments are the things that really, because there's even still people that debate like certain things like with.
He tells Roland that he goes by several different names, and one of them is Randall Flagg.
Well, no,
that's at the Golgotha. He tells him that, and that's in my copy.
Well, yours is the old one. I don't think he does then, because she's saying it's not clear in the original version. I think you're thinking of like one of the arguments, because Stephen King does say that, where he's like the Man in Black, who also goes by many names, including Walter, and
it's also made clear in Wizard and Glass.
I'm saying there's people out there that still debate which elements of, in my opinion, they're all Flag that aren't. One of the biggest ones is Farson. There's still a lot of people who don't think Farson is, mostly because I think the comic books have Farson as a very independent character that is 100% not Flag, because they actually interact, I believe. Yeah. And like to me, no, like Farson is Flag. I think that's in the books. I think like there's the one guy that, you know, in books 6 or 7 that tells Roland like your mom sucked John Farson's cock, and like Flag is the one that was sleeping with his mom. So like for him to call him Farson, like to me that is enough. And then I think in some of the intros, King references them all in the same loop, where he's like Flag and or Farson or whatever you want to call him, like he lists it. So where like to me, I don't think there's any mistake that it is, but there are some people out there that do disagree. Still, it's one of the online things that people definitely debate. But I 100% believe that Farson is Flag, because if nothing else, it's kind of like the Stand to me, where it's like what Farson's doing is exactly the kind of stuff Flag would do.
Yeah,
like the downfall of a world. So like that is exactly the kind of stuff Flag would do. So like to me, even before I heard that line in the later book, or before I saw the Stephen King's thing where he references them together, the first thing I think with Farce, I'm like, that's got to be Flag. Like
I thought so too,
because it's like this dude that's leading this like thing that's against the world that is in Roland's mind good. Yeah, everything that's upstanding in the world is being attacked by this dude. Like that is quintessential Randall Flagg. Like. That may as well be the dude that, in most people's minds, even though he's not, put the whole outbreak in the Stand on Flag. I mean, even I think at one point you did until we discussed it, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess he doesn't really do it. But it's one of those things everyone just assumes that Flag is like behind everything in the Stand. He isn't. He just takes advantage of what happens. But yeah.
Still a bad guy.
And then she says, when I was a kid, my parents had a large library, and there wasn't really any books that I was old enough to there wasn't any books I was told were completely off limits. So one day I pulled this huge book off my mother's shelf and tried to read it. By the time that Georgie had his arm ripped off, I was freaked out and realized that there was no way in hell I could ever read that book. So my mother handed me Eye of the Dragon and told me to try that one. Thus started my fascination with Randall Flagg as the most evil man, as I would come to learn in multiple worlds. One of the other King podcasts I listened to has indicated that he loves both Flagg's death and the Crimson King's impotence as King's statement on evil. I point back to my comments about how this diminishes our heroes that have faced him in previous stories. Let's see, and then she says, long story. Long ago, Flag is central to much of King's universe. To be rewritten as an ignorant idiot in order to be, well, fucking eaten by a baby. Damn it! I honestly think that I could have. I think that he could have saved the entire thing for me by making it clear that Flag moved to another level of the tower to work on a different scheme once Mordred had removed him from this level. And I think that's the other thing, is I think I always assumed that too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I never assumed that like him dying by Mordred was like the end of Flag. I mean, even before I got to the end and realized like it's all a cycle and it's just gonna cycle back on itself. But I was just like, oh well, Flag's just gonna wake up on some beach somewhere and start over. Like, I don't know, maybe that's just me. That's the way I am. I just I just assumed that, I guess. I just almost assumed that Flag's like this eternal presence that just goes from one to the next and just never stops.
No, that's Eddie Dean. Eddie Dean is eternal. Flag's not.
I don't know about that, sir.
Hey, at the close of the book 7, when you close the book, Eddie Dean is alive. Flag is not.
Yeah, because then I open
Eddie Dean is eternal. Flag is not.
Then I open the stand and go, oh, look.
No, that happens before.
Actually, no, when you close the book for book 7, Flag is still alive. First line, again, the man in black fled across the desert. So he's still alive.
Get out of here.
Peter just gave me the finger for all you guys listening. I don't get that one very often. But yeah, no. So with Jennifer, I would say that I think that's one of the reasons that didn't bother me either, is because I just assumed that he did. But you're right, they don't really point that out overtly. I get that it was more just me inserting into the text.
It's because of like what happens at the end of Stand.
Yeah.
Of the Stand is like,
yeah.
Like that's what happens to him, and that honestly pissed me off at the end of the Stand the first time I read it. I was like, no, he's supposed to be dead.
Yeah, indeed. Is there something going on in the chat? You just keep. Sorry, I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat.
I'll talk to you about it later. Travis had a really good idea, but it is not the time, as we're getting pretty close to 2 hours now. It is not the time for this idea, but I told him to email us because it is a really good idea.
Okay.
We'll don't worry about that. Keep going with emails. We'll talk about it maybe at the like the little at the end of the recording.
Oh, Chris, well played.
Oh my God, Chris!
Well played. For all you listening that aren't in the chat, Chris said Eddie is eternal. His eye disagrees. I'm so glad that I get to read those things before you, so I can just like watch as you read them and see your reaction. It's the best.
Wow, dude, what did I do to you?
It's the best. Oh man. Hey, he said it. I thought it. Same thing.
Same thing.
Okay. Then she goes on and says, let's see. Yeah. She goes on and says, you mentioned that the Manny village made you think of Tull. It didn't for me. Roland walked into Tull not particularly caring if anyone there lived or died, but he wouldn't have done anything to put them into danger that he had a choice. Let's see here. If he had a choice, when he figured out that the village was a trap, he was horrified. I actually grabbed a quote here, and then she said, and she has a quote. She says, he realized he was screaming. He had been screaming all along. His eyes felt like cracked ball bearings. His balls had drawn up against his belly. His legs were wood. His ears were iron. And she says, that is as he is gunning down the entire population. Roland isn't cold and uncaring and tall. He's caught in a trap, and he won't let the men in black use these people to kill him. He, as will be made more clear in later books, actually fairly polite to most people in Tull, other than Sylvia Pittston, but that's just disturbing. More importantly, nothing here contradicts the fact that he's still acting as a gunslinger. There's no indication that he would have ignored a request for justice. Roland is hard as well as he will always be, but is no choice of his other than walking innocently into the town in the first place. Caused what happened in Tull. The man in black set a trap, and he survived it. He asked questions, but showed no belief that they're answering them. He asked questions, but showed no belief that their answering them would endanger people. It's entirely different than what the movie showed in the Manny Village. And yeah, I think that like they're for sure. Yeah, but I also think that we are dealing with a different Roland too. I don't think that. I think that
Roland's not a gunslinger per se in the Manny Village in the movie.
Yeah, he's kind of done with it. But I could totally see why that's not necessarily something that is popular with people. I've talked to even some people at work recently that are fans, and that's some of the problems they had, where they're just like, this doesn't fit, man. Like Roland would never give up the tower. Roland never do this. Even though for me, I'm just like, even before the movie came out, I was kind of okay with that because like Roland with a more redeemed soul would be crushed by what had happened in his lifetime. But whatever. It's like you said earlier, Peter. Everyone takes things differently. And then she says, regarding where the cycle starts and your argument about the cycle begins hard at the point where Roland is already chasing Flag across the desert. From the books, I would have to absolutely believe this. The end of the book is clear with the last line echoing the first from the series. I would have to agree that the horn was a divine intervention. I would have to believe that Roland had moved far enough into the last cycle that whatever white controls the tower gives him a chance to finally move on, and in a better way than the world has. However, if this were to be a continuing story, I guess they could convince me that this wasn't the case. The physical starting point is starting to cross the desert, but they could make me understand something different about what happened before. Perhaps the world before the starting point changes in some way to accommodate Roland's mind. The mind state at the finish, and that's an interesting thought too. So like that maybe the past changes to accommodate the change, because ultimately, Roland isn't just gonna be like, oh, what the hell is this on my hip? Oh, it's a horn. Where the hell did that come from? Like, no, like he has a memory that's going to reflect that he picked it up.
Even if that memory isn't necessarily true.
I mean, it would be, but I'm just saying, like
to him, yeah.
Well, I'm saying it probably. I mean, it would, because like in my mind, it's almost divine intervention that like allowed him to like pick up the horn. And I think that's why, like, even to her earlier point, so like it allows. Like it almost changes to like if you believe in like the multiverse thing, like at one world Roland picked up that horn and Roland has some of his soul still. It's almost like it just flipped Roland to that universe to where he did pick up that horn, and that's why in my mind him not being a gunslinger is okay, because then that dude that has more of a soul, the life that goes on beyond from there till the opening line is just so terrible that it just crushes him and just destroys him.
Also, it would change his. The movie would have changed how his father died.
But see, I don't know, because we still don't know how. I mean, unless the comic books cover it.
Well, he never covers. He never accuses Flag of killing his father.
No, it's true,
and he would have. I'm sorry, but he would have if he had.
You think so?
Oh, Stephen? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he accuses him of. He says you killed my mother and everything like that. So.
Yeah, I don't know. And then Jennifer goes on and says, I think that they would need to dig into the series and explain it in some way in order for me to buy it. But I could see being convinced. I don't, however, think that they are likely to put the thought into it necessarily to make me understand how it's possible. And that's true. That is one of those things that, like, hopefully with the TV series they can actually do. But it would definitely take some fans in the writer's room of any show to understand it well enough to get in to explain it.
Right.
Like, we got to it here, but how long has it taken us to talking through this that we came to these questions and these answers? Is your average writer going to do that, or is it just going to be like just a matter of fact? I don't know.
Yeah.
And then she said, regarding digging into the minutia of stories, there's nothing better than a world created by a creative person that allows you to truly think, dig, and try to fully understand. I spent years coming up with theories on the Wheel of Time because the author had built a world that allowed that to happen. I don't watch any further in Game of Thrones TV series because I want that world to open up to me as the author intended, not as the showrunners do. And yes, I am scrupulously avoiding show spoilers. Which, yeah,
I'm glad that we've avoided spoilers on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I try not to spoil stuff in general with anything. I mean, I don't know. Even other Stephen King books, a lot of times we've
shied away,
skirted around a lot of that stuff. And then she goes on and says, Twin Peaks and the other TV shows that allow me to indulge similarly. Also, either none of us are freaks, or we can decide that being a freak in this manner allows us to fully immerse ourselves in things that we enjoy in a way that the normals will never comprehend. And that's, yeah, totally. I never would use the term freak for any of us in a negative way. Like, if I say it, I mean it in the most positive way possible.
That's why I'm chuckling, because I take it as a compliment.
Yeah, it's definitely a good thing. We're all about like this kind of stuff. Like, that's, I mean, I don't know. I don't think as she says, the normals. I don't think normals would be doing a Dark Tower podcast to begin with.
Nope.
And then she says,
no, they would not.
And she says, well, hell, that got long again. Sorry. And then she has a smiley emoji, and then she even says a very simple emoji. Slightly helpful in indicating mood and intent in writing a word. Totally idiotic to write a movie about it. So she at least agrees with you.
But she used one.
Yeah, but she's saying they're useful, and don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, I think is what she's getting at there.
Okay.
Although if that means that it's no longer a stab in the ribs for Peter every time an emoji happens, then that's somewhat of a downside for me. But either way, that's what she's getting at.
I think she's fixed me on you guys using emojis now.
And then she goes on, finishes up here and says she signs off, Jennifer from Midworld or around Milwaukee, depending on the level of the tower you find me at. That's good. Well played, Jennifer. That's a good one.
Well done. Well done.
Indeed. And I think we can get probably into one more. We went a little bit longer on the news stuff than I thought we would, so we didn't get through as many of the emails as I thought we might. But I don't know. Such is Palaver.
Isn't that what we always do? You're like, okay, we're going to end here. We always end up talking about something with our tangents.
Yeah, which is fine. I totally enjoy it.
It's the best.
Hopefully, you guys enjoy listening. But yeah, it's all right. But next time, and the other thing too, I guess, is if you guys are newer and you've only been listening since the movie, most of our episodes have been fairly long. Most of our episodes are right about 2 hours, so we're about the time that we normally end our episodes. And we're going to be trying to get back to our normal length episodes. I guess as an FYI for people that might be newer, because people might be like, wait, they're wrapping up? Like, it's like an hour shorter than normal. But that's just because of what we've been doing for the movie was a little bit above and beyond what we normally do.
Lou's off to see it.
All right, Lou, enjoy. Next time we talk on the roundtable, we will have seen it potentially multiple times. We're going to go see it tonight as well. But yeah, see you, Lou. Thanks for joining us. Now this one is another fun one here.
Oh, no.
No, it's the name itself is a fun one.
What the?
And he actually mentions the pronunciation, like not how to pronounce it, but then nobody gets it right. I don't know. Is it Vajeko? I don't know.
Or is it just Jekko?
Could be.
Is the V silent?
Sorry. Cry your pardon on that.
Just call him V. We're just going to call him V.
He's from Amsterdam. And he says, hello, Tad and Peter.
Hi.
He says, I've been enjoying your great podcast for a few months now. And he says, lazily, I have to admit, because this is the first time I'm writing. No winky emoji here.
Thank you.
And he says, not sure if this email is too late, but I just want to give my perspective on the movie, which I just saw today, Saturday, August 26th in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, in a packed cinema surrounded with very enthusiastic people. This gives me hope for the humankind after all.
Hey.
I'm really hoping that the movie will do good in Europe. And it looks like it has been. It looks like internationally it's been doing far better than it has here in the United States.
Yeah.
And then he goes on and says, all my friends know that I'm a constant reader. I've been over the Dark Tower book series 3 times. And very excited when the film project has finally been announced last year. Unlike pitiful, joyless people, and then he says in parentheses, sadly some Stephen King fans are in that category too. I really like the movie. And he says we all know this is a difficult story to adapt, and there is still so much more to discover in the Dark Tower universe. At a mere 94 minutes running time, I never felt rushed or cheated. In fact, I appreciated them not padding the film out and dragging it down as a result. Why is it that today's generation of moviegoers complain when a movie is too short, as if the movie is worth its measuring by length? And then he says in parentheses, anything over 2 hours must be great. Doesn't matter that some people will check their phones 10 times during that exciting 2-hour movie, which is
he's got a point.
Definitely a good point there. And he says, and one more thing I had to repeat over and over. No, the Dark Tower movie isn't a direct adaptation of the books. Get over it. And it sounds like he's definitely one that fits in with what we've been saying.
I was actually having a conversation with our coworker over Facebook chat the other day about it. And she's like, man, this has just got to be one of the worst adaptations. I'm like, it's not an adaptation. She's like, oh, well, no, but it's based off of... I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's a sequel. It's like if you took... And I'm looking at Tad's movies again here. If you took the Halloween series, and instead of making another... What are we on, 10 or 11 now? Halloweens? Instead of making it into a movie, if you made a book out of it.
Yeah.
And it's a continuation of the story. And they're like, well, this isn't Halloween. Well, yeah, it's not. It's a continuation of the story.
Yeah.
I really just don't understand how some people can't grasp that concept. We've had this before in film, haven't we?
Not in this way. This is fairly unique in a lot of ways. I mean, because what other series or something could just do a sequel or something? Usually, you're just doing a straight adaptation.
I guess that's true.
Most things. And then he said, then he goes on and says, I thought all involved did a good job considering all the various challenges that this potential movie had, and the fact that at one point it seemed like it may never get released.
Yeah, it did.
Or just get much further delayed, and it didn't make the project seem as promising. The director did the best he could with the limited budget and the money hungry studio on his back. Do people think that he could create a movie that followed the books with that budget? There's no way. Anyone who read all the books in order will understand why this film is different and how it fits into the saga. Idris Elba, Matthew McConaughey, and Tom Taylor are really good as their characters. I thought they captured the essence of the story and laid some good groundwork for the in parentheses hopefully new installments of the saga. And he says the Dark Tower mystified a lot of people that needed everything explained to them. Or a box to put it in. The critics don't know what to make of it because it's not a superhero movie or not Logan and not a spaghetti western, which is totally true. Yeah, it just doesn't fit into normal boxes that people would expect.
Yeah,
and that's definitely a good point. He says to conclude, the makers had to create an ending that would both allow for a second movie, but it's sufficient to conclude this one without a sequel. As well, which certainly wasn't easy, but I think they did very well. I'm looking forward to the next movie where the content comes together. I told my friends, screw the critics and Twitter trolls, go see the movie and you won't be disappointed. And then, of course, with the obligatory thing here that we always tell people you don't need to worry about. So sorry for the lengthy email, which palaver, it's what it's all about. And then he says, and for all grammatical mistakes, English is my second language. And I just had to put my thoughts out there. I did go over your list of questions because I'm writing this while enjoying a cup of tea after seeing the movie. And then he says, I wish you long days and pleasant nights. Keep up the good work at the podcast. And he says, greetings from Amsterdam. And then Vijeko, as he signed, he says, P.S. No worries if you cannot pronounce my name. Almost no one can. And he gives us a smiley emoji. Yeah, that's definitely a tough one. I actually, my grandpa was born in Holland and actually moved here to the United States, so I have a little bit more experience with Dutch. But that's actually a name that I'm not
familiar with.
Yeah, I haven't seen one like that necessarily, but I know he's from a different part of the country than Amsterdam as well, so that might be something to do with it. But yeah, thanks for writing in, and definitely love to hear from you more. I think you may be one of the first people that we've had from the Netherlands. I don't remember if we had anyone before.
We've had someone else from the Netherlands. Someone else from Amsterdam has written in.
I don't.
I remember Amsterdam.
For some reason, I'm not recalling that. But
isn't that the one that sent us the? There was two people who sent us pictures of the emoji posters. One of them was flipping one off, and the other one was just letting us know that they're being advertised in Europe. One was from Germany. I swear the other one was from Amsterdam.
No, the other one was Sawyer.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. No, that he was flipping it off. He's Sawyer is the infamous one to flip off the emoji poster, which of course you alluded to when you saw the emoji poster.
Yeah,
and you post that on our social media. But that's that. I think that's going to do it for this episode. So next time,
okay, before we get to the close, I got to bring up what Travis asked of us. Okay. And I think it's a great show idea, and I want to see what you think before we get off the air. So Travis has some your thoughts. He says, I know you guys are reading emails, so maybe not right now, but I would love to hear Tad go in depth as to why he loves Flag and his views on Flag's goals, and I would love to hear Peter debate Ted. Maybe that could be an episode one day.
The Great Flag.
We've had little stuff here and there. We've had
the Great Flag Summit.
It really should be the long talk of the Golgotha.
And you know what it'd be is I'll get the picture of either maybe all of them. I'll get like the animated, the one from the book that they have animated. I'll get Matthew McConaughey. I'll get Jamie Sheridan from the Stan miniseries. Just have them all up on the screen. The whole.
Go get one from the comic book series.
Yeah, I guess that's true too. Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, that's his thing. I think that's a great idea because we have had discussions before, but we've never got all of it out there. I think that's a fantastic idea to do.
Yeah,
but we are not doing that next episode.
Yeah, next episode is for sure going to be a book club.
For sure.
We definitely want to get into that. And we also have some emails here, so the movie reactions will carry over into the next roundtable as well. But yeah, next time is for sure going to be a book club. We want to get back to book 2 and get back to Eddie Dean sitting on an airplane. And Roland's looked in now. But he hasn't really gone in yet, has he? With where we're at?
No, that's where we stopped. Is Roland going in? That's literally where we stopped.
But he hasn't like done anything
No.
yet. Like, okay, so yeah, we're right there.
Cody said maybe you guys should be in different rooms during the debate.
No, you know the one thing, and if you guys listen to the early episodes, like the first episode or so, we actually warned people about us in our debates and like whatever, because there's people in real life that'll see us like just debating and just having fun, and people will think that we're like about to go to blows just because we get heated and like not like in a bad way. It's just
I start calling Tad names, basically, is what happens, and we've had people literally step in between us, and we both kind of stop and look at them and go, "What? We're just debating here."
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are about to come to blows. No, we're not.
No,
no.
It's just like what was I'm trying to think of that show from like the late 90s that was on CNN with the two people on the either side of the table going at it, debating like political events or whatever. It was like a big show, and it was just like that was the whole idea. It's just like one of the earliest shows where they had like the two opposing people, and like that's basically.
But they still go to dinner afterwards.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah, but yeah, so we're gonna definitely want the flag summit will definitely be something in the old hopper for sure. But yeah, we got to get some of the emails left over from the movie, and I'm sure some more will be coming in, maybe with answers to our question that we asked, and then so go ahead and crack open your guys' copies of book 2, and next time join us as we get really in depth with Roland and Eddie in their first encounter with what's this hashtag? Tad is terrible and Peter is in denial.
What?
Peter's in denial about that's a tough one to discern there, Cody, because like if I'm terrible, how is Peter in denial? That's like playing both sides there.
It's true.
Like, because if I'm terrible, then you're saying Flag is bad, but Peter's in denial, he's saying Flag is good.
Or is he just giving us the
two sides?
The two sides hashtags.
Oh,
for
I think
when
the show
we
was
debate?
called Crossfire on CNN back in the day. Yeah, so it's like we're just that kind of way. We've always been that way for the longest time, regardless of what it's been. Star Wars, Dark Tower. I mean, sports. Like there's whatever we share, like as like friends. We
had a 45-minute argument about the verbiage of weather terms one time. But, so it's like, yeah, we'll argue about anything, but it's never. But it's
all in good fun. So I guess we could remind that if we do get to the Flag Summit, that there is no danger of any sort of thing, regardless of how it might sound. It's all in good fun.
Chris is accusing me of something horrible.
Yeah, loves Flag. Oh, I'm sure he does. And
I don't.
I'm sure at the end of the Flag Summit, that's what it'll come to, is Peter having the revelation that Flag is indeed the best.
No, he says my greatest secret is I love Flag. No, I don't.
All right, so we'll go ahead and close up shop then for this. And first off, just to let everyone know, if you guys can subscribe and rate and review us on iTunes, that would be very helpful to the show. If you guys want to stream us and don't like to do the whole download thing, we can do that on Stitcher. You can find the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com, where we'll have the links to that article that has the prints of the Stephen King art, as well as the art itself. I'll post on there, and as well as a few articles that we covered, we'll post that all on there as well. So go ahead and check that out at darktowerpalaver.com. And if you guys want to engage with us, Peter can tell you how that can best be done.
Best way is to email us. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And then if you want to follow us and interact with Tad directly, mostly it's Tad on the Twitter. It's @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. If you want to watch our shows and have the slides come up to what Tad's showing me, you can watch us on YouTube. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. You can also tune in live. We'll announce that on Facebook and Twitter when we're going live. But if you want to go back and watch older episodes with the slideshow is what Ted's showing me at the time, you can do that on YouTube.
Indeed. So yeah, and if you guys are wanting to join us next time, we'll be doing the book club. And now we have had some discussion whether the book clubs will be live. So if you guys want to engage with us on social media and tell us what you think about that, should the book clubs be done live? We've always thought at one point we even had like not to give too much behind the scenes, but we actually had like a book club kind of recorded in the hopper, and we had it as a backup to where like if there's ever a point when like we're going to come into a recording weekend and suddenly I got sick and got struck with the flu or something, I could always just post that and then we wouldn't have to like lose an episode. So like we've considered, we don't have that. We actually had to use it at one point. I think one of us got sick.
It's when I had my appendix out.
Oh yeah, his appendix is about to burst.
Yeah,
so
well, I almost died.
so with that kind of stuff, we it wouldn't really work with the live stream stuff. So just let us know what you guys think if the live stream for the book club is something that you'd be interested in, or whether we just post it like a normal podcast and maybe just post it on YouTube in some way that isn't live to where it'll still be on there if you like to do the YouTube thing. Not that there'll be a whole lot to look at on the book clubs, but let us know.
Cody's already said live book clubs, yes.
All right. So next time join us for the book club. But until then, as we always say, long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks. I like what Cody said earlier, too. He said, long podcast and pleasant nights for you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us in the chat, guys. You guys always make it fun for sure. And
yeah, Chris, I never take offense when someone ribs on me like that. I've had Tad as a best friend for 16 years. I'm used to it by now. You can never rival the evilness that this man has bestowed upon me. So,
man,
take your shots. You're welcome to it. I have no problem with it. I've always enjoyed people ribbing on me.
Oh, was he apologizing or something?
Yeah, he was worried that he had gone a little too far.
Oh, there's no such thing.
I told him. I was like, dude, no.
Peter's ultimate fear in life is that I will strike the lottery and become rich, because I'm also big into pranks and stuff. And Peter basically would probably have a nervous breakdown because I would completely destroy him. And not that I would necessarily mean to. It would just be one of those things where it'd just be like prank after prank. Eventually, Peter would like become like agoraphobic and not leave the house and stuff. Like just
I would literally probably get committed to a mental asylum.
And that wouldn't necessarily be my end goal, but I mean, I can't necessarily say it wouldn't happen though. So, you guys are...
Cody, no.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
And not just for Peter, for his daughter, too.
I'm going to get so many freaking copies of that movie, I swear to God.
Yeah, I'm going to give one to his daughter, because that's the ultimate way to...
I will break your kneecaps if you give that to my daughter. Because we drove past the mall the other day, and it had the big sign up for it. And she's like, I need to see that movie. And my wife was like, no, you don't.
Oh man! Well, thanks for joining us, guys. It's been fun. It's always great. You guys are awesome. You guys make this. I don't know how we didn't do these live shows like more often. Like the few live shows we did in the past were like call in.
So good.
So it was a different vibe. But now that we're just doing even regular shows with you guys in the chat, like it's really fun, and you guys actually add a whole new element to it, and it's just great for sure.
That's just evil. Chris.
Oh yeah. I've already thought about the whole Trojan perspective of
the
like
Trojan emoji movie.
Yeah, like hide it in another case of some kind. Like like, oh hey, to your daughter, like here's a copy of Lion King, and like she even opens it, looks like it's Lion King, but when she puts it in, it plays the emoji movie.
You're a terrible person.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us in the live chat, though. It's been awesome.
Yeah, Travis, if you're still here and want to send us an email about what you think that Tad needs, what specifically you want to hear from Tad about Flag, his goals and everything like that, that'd be great. We'll save it for that episode. We'll read it and we'll dive right in.
Yeah, that would be really fun. The Flag Summit. That'd be a good one.
I like the Golgotha talk is what I think of. You know, good guy and bad guy. Obviously, I'm pointing at Tad as the bad guy.
Of course, you say that. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us, and we'll say it again for you guys. Long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.